had the Lambo car, house in the hills with the stars. Told you I'd raise the bar, told you that I'd go far. Oh, what we could have been if you weren't arrogant. Oh, baby, what we could have been. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Baby, it's crystal clear. I'm not a souvenir. I'm not an accessory. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now. 'Cause now I like the fireplace. 20K gold ring. Don't need a man 'cause I'm my own king. I'm dripping icy diamond everything. Baby, it's crystal clear. I'm not a souvenir. I'm not an accessory. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now. Come and check me out now. Come and check me out now. Rabbit get up in the sky, baby, that's just how I fly. Yeah, I told you one day I'd be living this way. You could have had it all, but you went and dropped the ball. Oh yeah, you could have had it all. Yeah, 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 yeah. Baby, it's crystal clear. I'm not a souvenir. I'm not an accessory. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now. 'Cause now I like the fireplace. 20K gold ring. Don't need a man 'cause I'm my own king. I'm dripping icy diamond everything. Baby, it's crystal clear. I'm not a souvenir. I'm not an accessory. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now. Come and check me out now. Come and check me out now.
The Snapdragon Pro Series is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Monster Energy, and DHL.
Let the weak melt away. Killing spree.
Car's easy, let's take the kill back. Prime time, baby.
Looks like the players are ready. Here we go!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Snapdragon Pro Series Season 6 Open Finals, the final day until we step into the challenge season. My name is Steph Weezy, and glad to be a part of the show. Today is going to be interesting. We get to see 4 teams fighting it out. We get to see the lower bracket finals, the lower bracket, and also the grand finals to see who will reign champion in the Open Finals for Snapdragon Pro Series. What an amazing day, and a little bit of a twist on it. It's going to be a solo session, so it's going to be even more fun. So I'll be able to vibe out with you guys in the audience. And also, speaking of everybody out there in the audience, make sure you follow us on social media for the latest and greatest. All the spicy highlights from the Snapdragon Pro Series all the way out here for those competing in Turkey as they get ready to fight it out in the challenge season starting next year up against the top contenders from EU. So today's going to be full of excitement. I can't wait to see which way this goes. But before we get into all that, we're going to have to take a look at the format and see exactly how all of this has been going down. Like we mentioned, EU and MENA fighting it out. Their Open Finals did complete at the 14th of October. Now we're at Turkey's Open Finals, coming to a conclusion to figure out which 2 teams will be moving forward from each group into the Challenge Finals. Can't wait to see which way this goes, as today will be the final day. And then we'll be seeing the Challenge season kicking up January 11th all the way to January 19th, and the finals being the 8th of February to the 9th of February. A great way to start the new year. But like we said, today, it's all about the Turkey region, right? We got to see which teams will be moving on forward and who will dominate this season. Now, there's a lot of prizes on the line. There's a lot to take away and bring to the bank from the challenge season and the open finals as well. As you see the prize pool, $3,000 going to first place, $1,500 to second place, third and fourth getting $750, fifth through sixth, $450, and then $300 for seventh and eighth place. I love to see this, right? This means that everybody is taking something home, regardless of where you're at here for the open finals. Now, we're going to look at the calendar and take a sneak peek at the schedule so far. As you see the open finals today, we are closing it with a banger, seeing which teams will fight it out in the grand finals. Then we'll be moving on to that challenge season, kicking off January 11th and finishing on the 19th. And then the challenge finals to figure out who will reign champion as the grand finalist and the champion for the Snapdragon Pro Series Season 6. It's going to be EU, MENA, and Turkey fighting it out once again. We got to see this last year. It was definitely a pleasure, but a lot of teams are now stepping into the scene and wreaking some havoc. And today, it's going to be a pleasure being able to cast the Turkey scene. I didn't really get to cast Turkey last time. We got to cast EUR&MENA, so to be able to see what's going on in the Turkey side of things is going to be exciting. Now, it's been a lot of talk about Fireflex Esports, right? They've been a secret contender. They've been hitting very hard, and even when we got a sneak peek of seeing them in MSC 2024, they were rated as an A-tier team, and we got to see, do they still have that same caliber of gameplay, or are there other teams that are kind of stepping to the scene that may give them a little bit of a challenge? So let me know what you guys think. Which teams are you rooting for through today? Who you think will place first in the grand finals for the open finals with SPS Season 6 for Turkey? And who you're looking forward to seeing? What are your favorite matches? Speaking of that, though, guys, make sure you check out the social media. Check out all the highlights going on today and also the previous days as well, as it's all there in case you missed any part of it. Unleash the beast and get that energy as well, as SPS is here, and we're going to be getting this show started momentarily. Today's going to be 3 best of 3s, right? We're going to be starting in the lower bracket. Then we're going to see who wins there. We'll move on to the lower bracket finals to go up against Fireflex Esports. And then from there, another chance for a best of 3 for that grand champion spot. But there's a potential for a bonus game. If Fireflex does not win the best of 3 in that grand final spot, we'll have a bonus best of 3. I love to see things go the distance, and I always try and manifest it to reality. So hopefully we'll be able to see that today. But speaking of seeing things today, now going to be jumping into the draft for the first series of SPS lower bracket for Turkey. That's right, 2 amazing teams ready to go head to head. Got to let us know which way you think this is going to go, though. S2G Esports up against BJK Esports as well. See if BJK has what it takes. Now, I'm a little bit more familiar with S2G Esports. For those who don't know myself, I'm a caster all the way out from North America. I cast all the North America Challenger tournaments, and then also a caster for some of the international events such as MSC as well. And here we are with the Snapdragon Pro Series. So we've got a little bit of insight on some of these teams, and then others are a little bit newer, at least for me, but maybe not for you guys out there in the audience. So hopefully you guys can give a little bit of insight for BJK. Now, S2G Esports, though, I did actually have the pleasure of meeting these guys in person. They're pretty cool. So to be able to see them over here again, I love to see teams grinding and trying to continue that name and that legacy for themselves. As we are looking at the draft, though, like I said, myself, I'm from North America, and typically we have our own blend of meta, but it's nice to be able to see what's going on in other regions. We got to see Turkey and EU in the open finals for Snapdragon Pro Series, and I feel like it was kind of staple, what we're seeing more compared to the Philippines and Indonesia. But for Turkey, it's always the question, what is going on over here, right? Now, as we are looking at some of the bans on the board, there goes that Khalid. It's been a staple XP laner. It's been such a threat and not too many answers for it. There's been a couple of heroes that we've seen kind of give it some pressure, such as the CC. That Phoveus could definitely wreak some havoc, which is still on the table and available for both sides. But something that does stand out is S2G Esports, right? They're going to go ahead and go in for that jungler. They're going to prio that assassin nice and early, pick up that Nolan. The Suyo has been a threat. A lot of teams yet to find an answer for it, and I think it was a wise ban from the side of BJK. Not something you want to allow S2G Esports to take here. When it's a best of 3, there's not too much insurance in that kind of series, right? This game 1 is pivotal. It's huge. It's very important to be able to take this one home because it gives you a little bit more of that breathing room for game number 2, and that's a match point as it is a best of 3. Now, the response back from BJK, they are going to be picking up this Hylos paired up with that Ruby. This is heavy frontline capability right here, right? You have the Hylos with the Glorious Pathway. He's able to have high mobility, keep the team where they needed to go at a fast rate, and then also the Ruby for the additional crowd control for some chain CC and sustainability. The thing about the Ruby, though, right, it's a triple flex, right? You can run the Ruby in the gold lane. You can put it in the roam position. You can also put it in the XP lane. And with this Hylos, you don't know where the Hylos is going. Technically, the Hylos could be an XP lane as well, or it could be the roamer, which is what I would say would be a double effect of a hero pick, right? It's a flex pick. So right now, good crowd control going in for the side of BJK. For the side of S2G, though, we see a lot of damage with this Nolan. Nolan's main priority early is to get those pickoffs in the side lanes and deal some initial burst damage to pave that way for the early objectives. Speaking of early objectives, though, a little bit of a surprise, and this is why I said I love to see the difference in meta between multiple different regions. Definitely different than what we've seen in the EU and MENA region. Definitely different than what I've seen in North America. I've never actually seen a Nolan paired up with a Ling. It's kind of got me scratching my head a little bit. I feel like they already had an assassin that could get the job done, but this should guarantee, I would say, the Nolan in the XP lane, and this is going to force that Ling into the jungle. Now, the Eve. The Eve is stationary, but it's great for utility. It provides that slow with that real-world manipulation dropping down that entire grid square. It can take in a full objective and put on some pressure. But the problem with the Eve is that she is very stationary. And you already have a Hylos and you have a Ruby. Both heroes that are great on getting to those back lines. But speaking of back lines, we got some assassins on the board, right? With the Nolan, with the Ling. You're going to have to watch out for your ADC in the side lane. You're going to have to watch out for that marksman. This is actually good for BJK. If they do run this Ruby in the gold lane, it's great against heroes that love to dive, right? They dive into that turret. You use all that crowd control at your disposal, and also having the healing and the sustainability is going to keep them inside of the game. So we'll have to see how this kind of plays into things. Now, looking at both sides, I would say with this double assassin combination, it's going to lack a lot of push potential, right? They're not really going to have a true ADC unless they're going to, if they run a marksman here, they're going to be very, very squishy, especially in that XP lane. And that could be something that BJK leans in on. This is going to force S2G to be super aggressive, nice and early if they want to be able to take these objectives, right? They're going to have to try and go in for the early pickoffs, definitely going for these neutral objectives, because if you allow that to go to the side of BJK, they're just going to start that snowball, especially with having more of a, I would say, balanced composition when it comes to the draft. Speaking of drafting, though, that Saber getting banned out there. I can't tell you the last time I seen a Saber sneak into the mix, and I can't tell you the last time I seen those special guests on the screen. But nonetheless, it's definitely going to be interesting as we are taking a little bit of a break from the draft real quick. Got some time to kick back with you guys. Man, how y'all feeling? Happy, I would say, Sunday for you guys out there, depending on where you're at in the world. Hopefully you're having a great weekend as we come to a closure. Today is going to be interesting, right? It's going to be a major statement between BJK and also S2G Esports to figure out who will be moving on into that lower bracket final to be fighting up against Fireflux. Let me know your guys' predictions. Which way do you think it's going to go? Do you think it'll go the distance? Do you think it'll go all the way to a game 3, or do you think it'll be a 2-0 sweep? And whose favor do you think that'll lean in on at the same point? So with BJK, with S2G Esports, I'm expecting some amazing things. I got a little bit of a peek at the graphics beforehand. Like I said, I was more casting over for the EU side. But for S2G Esports, so far, they've taken down a couple of teams that you guys may be familiar with, right? You got Dennis Bank, W Cats, and also they were able to take down Heaven. But looks like they started a little bit further. None of it was on stream, though. Just so many teams fighting it out. So just going to kind of pave the way on their journey so far. So they've knocked down one team. It was 2-1, though. It wasn't a sweep for the side of S2G. For the side of BJK Esports, though, they are fresh off of a sweep, a 2-0 up against Dios Real. So maybe they got that momentum working in their favor. Time will tell. Nonetheless, expecting both of these teams to put on some high-caliber gameplay. The draft, though, it's a little shaky. I don't know how I feel about the Ling and the Nolan combination. I would love to see who the last remaining heroes are for both sides to kind of help us paint that picture. But so far, I think I'd be leaning inside of BJK's side when it comes to the draft. I think they have a little bit stronger of a composition to be able to pull off these neutral objectives, especially in the early phase. But when you run that a double assassin for the side of S2G Esports, they got to be aggressive. They got to take the game early. If they don't, it's going to be hard toward that mid game to keep that rhythm going, especially if you're playing from behind. I don't think a double assassin combination is a type of team that can play from behind. I think they have to either remain in front or stay at least at the same level to be able to hit and do some damage. So let me know how y'all feel about the the double assassins. Have y'all ever seen a Ling and a Nolan on the same side? Maybe there's a secret for it as well. If y'all know a secret for it, let me know, because I'd definitely be interested. Like I said, it's nothing I've seen, but I've seen a little bit of surprising things this year. Even for NACT, we got to see the Akai sneak back in over here for our North America teams. So I don't know. Maybe meta is shifting again. Maybe it's being blended, or maybe it was a misdraft. I will definitely have to figure that out. But yeah, man, much love to everybody out there in Turkey as we're getting ready for our teams to get into the land of Dawn for our first series of the day. Like we mentioned, follow Snapdragon Pro Series on social media to stay tuned with the latest and greatest, from the hottest reels to the hottest teams and some of your favorites as well. Maybe some underdogs who may rise to the occasion as we progress through the Open Finals. Today's going to be a blast. I think we had a little bit of a delay in the draft, so like I said, it'll be a slight solo cast. I think we'll have a special guest or a co-caster sneaking up in here momentarily, a face that you guys hopefully should recognize. And yeah, it's going to be some fun. But while we got some time, like we said, these teams fighting for some decent cash prizes. First place getting $3,000, $1,500 to second place. And everybody really getting a piece of the pot. I think 7th through 8th place was about like $300 going to both sides. So it's definitely going to be fun, and just glad for you guys to be a part of it. So first series of the day, like we said, BGK up against S2G Esports. We'll have to see which way it goes, and we'll have to pan on over, I believe, to see. I think we have our other caster in here. Production, sorry, I didn't pick that up. But yeah. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pan on over. Like I said, my name's Steph Weezy, but we have another guest on the scene all the way out from North America as well. I know him as, actually, I'm not going to give that name out, but the world knows him as Private Dancer. So let's go ahead and swing on over and see how he's doing today before we jump into our first series of the day. I think he's in, or we may pan over momentarily. But, yeah, like I said, here we go. Prize pool on the board, $3,000. First place, $1,500 for second place. Third through fourth, $750. Fifth through sixth, $450. And that 7th through 8th place sitting at an amazing $300. Everybody taking a little bit home today from the Turkey region and getting ready for that challenge season kicking off in January. It's a great way to start off to end the year with some decent cash prizes, and also to start off the new year before the challenge season. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, let us know which way you think it's going to go. What teams are y'all rooting for? What teams, if you guys have been kind of keeping tabs on the EU&MENA Open Finals, who do you want to see face off against some of these teams from Turkey? How do you guys think about Fireflex? How have they been doing, right? I mean, we've seen they were a heavy hitter, especially throughout the year. They're a top contender, even back in MSC. There's a lot of commotion going on for them. So we'll have to see just exactly what they bring to the table. I know there's been a little bit of roster changes, so things have been shaken up a little bit, but still a very a big team that a lot of people are keeping their eyes on. I think what kind of shines for me, though, at least from North America, is we like to see the teams, the underdogs, that don't get as much recognition, right? The teams that don't have as much of a name behind them, that want to kind of earn that spot. And hopefully today, as we close the Open Finals, we'll have more teams to kind of talk about in these discussions for the greatest. So now we're going to be switching on over. We got our amazing co-caster, Private Dancer, in the building. Welcome to the show.
What is going on?
I am about me.
I know. I give your voice a little bit of a rest. I am excited. I am pumped and ready to see these teams go at it. Man, it's going to be an exciting thing, especially because we're outside of North America, outside we call the huge region like PH. Indo. We're gonna see what we have in store on this side of the Atlantic, to see what these teams have to bring. Maybe there's a few more twists that these teams are going to bring to us through this meta.
I always say a little bit of twist, turns, and burns before we jump into the series. Guys, like we said, today's 3 best of 3s, potentially a bonus best of 3 if we're lucky. Hopefully it goes the distance, but time will tell, and these teams will be the ones to make that decision. Up on the board first, we got BJK and S2G Esports going to be fighting it out in this best of 3. Now, S2G Esports, they just had a 2-1. It was up against Dennis Bank W Cats. So they did lose one game. But when it comes to BJK, which is a team that I'm not too familiar with, but one of those possibly newer faces getting to the higher caliber, they're fresh off of a sweep up against Dios Real.
Well, I mean, we're a little familiar with S2G just because we saw them there last year. So we know that they know what it's like to be up at this type of level of competition. They know what it's like to compete here, the type of frustrations that you can get. I mean, we've seen teams come here. They do well in the qualifiers. They get up to that live stage, or they get up to that where all of the pressure mounts and it begins to crumble some teams. S2G Esports, we know how already has that history. They're in there. They've been practicing at this level for a while. BGK, for me, is going to be the one that everybody's going to need to watch out for. Are they going to be the ones that get up to that level and possibly start waning a bit, maybe start crumbling a bit? Or is this where they're going to be able to shine here against a team that already has a lot of experience like that?
Yeah, and that's going to be, it's always the underdogs that kind of catch my eye, right? I mean, we know, like you said, about S2G Esports. We've seen them not only in Season 5 of SPS, but we also see, and that was in the challenge season that we got to see them have some great gameplay, but also got to see them on a couple of other international tournaments. But yeah, BJK, definitely going to be interested in seeing how they kind of step into this, right? Especially being the underdogs. That's a chance for them to prove their name. And what better way to do it than up against S2G Esports? I always say, stepping into the scene of Turkey, right? Me and you both being casters all the way out from North America, to be able to see what's different, right? We got to see, like, are we doing things right? Or, like, are they going to show us a new blend of meta and maybe a new secret in MLBB?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing too, is like I always kind of look at these matches to see, like I said, what other teams, other regions can bring to us. There might be that little inkling, that little thing that nobody else has thought of. We saw it a little bit in North America where we thought Paquito was dead, and it was brought out to mild success. Right now we're in a little bit of a transition when it comes to the meta. We've seen assassins start to kind of take a back seat to a lot of these fighters, with Suyu, with Alpha, even Xborg in the pro scene has kind of pushed himself forward, where we thought assassins were going to reign supreme. Maybe here, maybe in Turkey, they have a different take on some of these picks. We're jumping right into it. And it looks like right now, a lot of faith from S2G kind of put into those assassins, especially with a Matilda left open. That really allows you a lot of mobility, whether it comes to engagements, whether it comes to being able to pull back a bit, to get yourself out of harm's way, or to help kite a lot of these teams as well. Valentina, for me, has been one of the prime mages in that role, in that mid position, that allows you so much flexibility, so much I want to say just fluidity throughout your draft, that even in the enemy's draft, because it forces them to kind of think about what they want to give you. Things like the Zaman Force, not really going to be of use to a Valentina as well. So we'll see what else we come up with. As we see, I want to say they're just really leaning into these assassins.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so it was a redraft because right before we got, the pleasure of having you hop in with us, it was the draft was on screen. It was a Nolan and a Ling on the same side. And I was like, there's no way. I've never seen that in history, and it looks like we're not going to see that today. Yeah, you never know, right? I mean, me and you both know when you to expect the unexpected, right? And hopefully we get some great things today. As we are seeing that Ling on the other side, looks like Turkey still leaning on the assassin prowl like the rest of the world, which is great. We are looking at some heavy crowd control for the side of BJK, though. Having that Valentina, having that Ling, and then on top of that Ruby. It's going to be a hard team to kind of push in against, right? A lot of setup potential coming from their side.
Yeah, and on the side, I see a lot of, on the side of BJK, there's a lot of, they have a decent early game to hold them off. Hylos usually is very often contested just because of the force that he can kind of go with at that early game, especially those first objectives. He's just so tanky. It's very hard to burst him down. If you're in the lead when it comes through the mid, the late game, I mean, you're going to need to have a plan to take him down, because him in front and your front line is just at this wall of defense, of HP that he has, that he can use to really kind of inhibit your team. But with the draft already ready, these teams are ready to go for their first match here to see who kind of set the tone. Like I said, I always look at these first matches as that, like those opening jabs in like a boxing match. They're setting the tone. They want to see what the other team can do. Both of these guys are going to kind of be feeling each other out to kind of get their rhythm and see where they land on the spectrum on that battlefield.
Yeah, it's up to them to write that story, right? And we'll be glad to be able to read it once it's written. Now, we got the Ling up against the Nolan, right? The Ling, it's highly mobile. It's great on getting these objectives. It's pretty much invulnerable when you use the Tempest of Blades to go in for that retry play. So I would say it's not really a 50-50 retry at that point, as Ling will have a little bit more of that advantage, which could give the Nolan a little bit of a challenge. As ladies and gentlemen, we are now jumping into the lower bracket for SPS Season 6 Open Finals. Turkey S2G Esports up against BJK in a best-of-3.
Yeah, you brought up a great point when it comes to the matchup of the junglers here. I mean, we can already see there that's Nolan already starting to make his way down to that orange buff, while Ling is going to have himself a little bit, unless he's helped out by teammates, Ling has just a little bit of a later starter. That has nothing to do with the jungler. It's just the pace at which we go. Nolan, you get this great early game, just amount of clearing, quickness. We've seen Nolan, especially when he's used to, I want to say, those great, sharp, and crisp P's and Q's. He can get all over the map, even when he's like behind in fights. He can get there to be that cutter of the lanes. He can be that pusher when your entire team is at some of those objectives that you brought up. It's going to be harder for him when it gets to those turtle fights, to those lord fights, because he's not like Ling, where he can perch himself up on a ledge out of harm's way, or even kind of like come into the fight without people being able to see him. It's going to be very interesting to see how some of these lord fights, and it goes really big. That's why a lot of these objective fights are so important for your team when you're using these assassins. Are they going to be able to sit there, hold those objectives for you, get the vision that is needed, maybe even waste out some of that CC? Because I'm going to tell you, both of these assassins, they're waiting for those CCs to be out. They don't want to get caught. Ling doesn't want to get taken off of this Finch pose. And Nolan doesn't want to come in and get CC'd down before he can leave. All of those cooldowns he has, all of those dashings will be shut down before he can make himself an escape route from some of these objectives. So that is going to be like the winning points and that early game. We've talked about it before. Nolan has this great early game, but he does need those kills to kind of get that ball rolling.
Yeah, and we're going to see who can get that ball rolling a little bit faster, right? Now, I mean, you mentioned both assassins and definitely their limitations, and we also got to kind of peek at what's going on in the gold lane, right? I mean, I thought it would have been the Ruby slotted into the gold lane for BJK, but they decided to flex it into, I believe that, or was Ruby in the XP? I'll have to see when we jump back into the game. But regardless, it's not a Ruby in the gold position, right? It's going to be a Natan instead, which means it's going to be a Natan going up against the Harith, right? The Natan who can kind of fight from a little bit further, but the Harith who wants to get more up close and personal. And when it comes to survivability, with S2G Esports having this Mathilda, they're going to have a lot more heals, right? They're going to be able to keep themselves alive and get back to safety, a little bit of insurance when things are not looking to work in their way. As you see in first blood on the board, Lunar taken down. That will be Chapo picking that up.
Yeah, and that's gonna set the tone. That's gonna start kind of rolling the ball for S2G Esports. Maybe not for the jungler just yet, but it does set the tone for the momentum for him. I mean, you're already gonna have somebody who's gonna be falling behind. That's a lane that you're not gonna need to prioritize there. You do see a Lunar. Oh my god, he's in between 3 members right now. This might be a little bit of a lag issue. He just kind of walked into his doom there, so they're gonna go ahead, take that pause before they can maybe figure things out for Lunar, who's got this this death wish. I'm assuming that there was maybe some type of lag issues there, because he just kind of walked into his death there.
Yeah, definitely walked straight into his demise, and that's 2 kills right now for BJK. I wonder how that's going to play into things. But yeah, as we have a little bit of a technical pause, when it comes to the side laners, it looks like it was a Ruby put into the XP lane. So that is going to be the Hylos in their own position for the side of BJK. So it's going to be a lot of glorious pathways to be able to get the team to those objectives a little bit faster. The Ruby will be paired up in that XP lane up against the Edith, though. We just seen how that's been playing off, right? First blood was Lunar on the Edith actually falling, and Lunar falling twice so far. That's 2 deaths over there for S2G. Maybe it's a little bit of lag. Hopefully we'll get all that worked out here momentarily as we pan on over to the desk. A little bit of a slower start for today, but nonetheless, that gives us a little bit more time to hang out with you guys out there in the audience, man. How do y'all feel about the draft? How do y'all like the Ruby put into the XP lane? I mean, normally we see it in the gold lane, and then when it's not in the gold, we see it in the roam. We don't get to see it in the XP lane as often.
Well, the thing is, too, like right now, especially with these compositions, when it comes to assassins, it's so important where a lot of these heavily CC characters go. We already know Ruby has a ton of CC, a little bit of CC on Hylos, a tiny bit on Valentina when you can get that combo out there as well. So that's going to be really important here as Kazoo pokes his head around to the wrong L bush there, gets a little bit of attack by BJK as they go ahead and push him back.
Yeah, right now BJK definitely going to have a slight advantage, especially having 2 kills on the board. Lunar off to a little bit of a rough start with 2 deaths on his side. You are going to see the turtle now going toward the side of BJK. The I'm Offended will connect for the setup on Pagu. Now needing to go back to the base, and it looks like the turtle will be going over to BJK with no contest.
Yeah, Pagu came in there just to get some vision and got confronted by 3 players. He's like, oh, this isn't where I want to be. The rest of the team isn't here. The jungler isn't ready for this. So let's just go ahead, back up, make sure that, just make sure that we don't cost our team another death additionally with this turtle. And you can see, oh my gosh, and Brian, he's kind of trying to continue the pain onto S2G. Not only did they lose an objective, but that opened it up for him to get to the bottom lane into the enemy's jungle and go ahead and steal S2G's orange buff as well. And you can see here, Isaac actually coming in. Glorious Pathway is out. Padu actually going to need to use those guiding winds to get himself to safety.
He was able to get his purple buff, though, so Kazue, eyes on the prize, even with that invasion, didn't stop him, which is great for the side of S2G, as they need anything they can get right now, right? We're already seeing that ball starting to roll for BJK, now up by 1,200 gold in the first 3 minutes of this game, and also a turtle on their side. It's going to be a little bit of a slighter advantage working in their favor. Now, we mentioned the Ling being the one that paved the way in the early game, right? He's the assassin. He's going to go in for these side plays and also have a little bit more of an easier rotation compared to Kazue on this Nolan. So it'd be a little bit more of an upscale battle. So definitely going to have to keep Kazue on these faster rotations.
Yeah, we do have a Glorious Pathway going out. Looks like Lunar kind of got left in the dust up there in that bush. He is going to be able to find and escape. Ooh, Begin sitting here waiting in for Isaac. You see that Fracture comes out there along with the Eternal Guardian. Alaya does get caught, is able to find an escape, and doesn't look too worse for wear at mid. It's going to be able to kind of clean up that mid. Is kind of baiting that ultimate in to the tower. Brian looking for a little bit of damage here. On to begins. You see that guiding winds. We've talked about how useful Matilda goes, and this is why she is usually banned. As soon as you think you have a kill, Matilda's going to be able there to swoop in like Pagu did and get that guiding wind to find that escape. Brian does secure himself a second objective for BJK Esports.
Yeah, another turtle on their side for even more of an advantage. Ooh, I thought they were gonna engage right there. Wise decision from S2G to pull back. Now, that's 2 turtles within the past 5 minutes going to BJK, 1,600 gold lead and climbing, and off to a great start. And not to mention they have this Natan, which I'd consider as possibly a ticking time bomb. You're gonna have to watch out for, right? I mean, without the ADC falling super early, it can definitely work in his favor. You got to see a little bit of that fracture from Causeway, but not really having that much damage. And this could just be with the delay of the start he had in the beginning of this game.
Yeah, and we've talked about it. Nolan, he needs to kind of be ahead. He's going to start falling off like a canyon in the mid game, especially if he is underfed. We can see because, like, I want to say Nolan really shines in that laning phase where everybody's split up into 3 different areas. He can find some of those pickoffs where maybe the team isn't. They're not able to protect. But once you get out of that laning phase, once you get into those team fight territories, it's going to be very hard for Nolan to kind of find those kills, find those pickoffs without risking his life there as well. And that's where I want to say Ling really starts to pop off at that mid and late game, especially if a Ling is behind, because Ling can just use that pinch pose, get to the other side of the map very quickly, start pushing, and create that pressure on the other side of the map. We have an Iron Offended followed by the glorious pathway. Both teammates from S2G going to go ahead, dash themselves to safety.
Yeah, neither side going to lose any members from that engagement. Definitely testing the water, but right now it's no secret. BJK is the one in control of the early phase, able to get majority of these objectives with little to no problem, and also the one to kind of start the way on the invasion plays for S2G's jungle. And yet to take a buff away, but their head is in the right place when it comes to the invasion. Speaking of invasions, though, turtle spawned in, and S2G looking to bounce back.
Yeah, right now we can see a big stun lands onto Lenar, who is trying his best to hold the glorious pathway is out, and Kazoo able to finally answer with a 3rd turtle there. So they're going to have 1 turtle in their pocket, a little bit of I want to say a little bit of shielding coming for them, a little bit of defense. We have the circling eagle onto Brian. He's not going to connect with it. Pagu basically tried to use it as a tool to kind of upset the side of BJK, but they do lose a tower still. 2 towers, as you can see them starting to push their way through the map.
Yeah, that's going to hurt S2G a lot more, right? I mean, it wasn't really a trade that I would have taken. Losing or taking a turtle, but losing not only a tier 3 turret, but a tier 2 on the top side and your tier 3 turret in the mid as well. It's going to give a massive advantage at the 7-minute mark for BJK. Now up by 3,000 gold ahead of S2G. And that's also going to help Britannia with the farm, right? You just see the Feather of Heaven picked up by Siggy Bum. So definitely can definitely help him out. But I would expect Britannia to have a lot more farm than him right there, as you are going to see a turret fall as well. On the bot side, Britannia's just taking everything with no problem so far. Top side, though, Siggy Bum trying to find an answer, trying to find a trade.
Yeah, and I want to say Natan is one of those marksmen you just cannot leave unchecked, especially at your towers. He's got so much damage that he can output. He's got a very slow early game where he needs to pace himself, but once those items start to bring him online, he becomes a menace to some of these towers. And I'm actually very surprised we haven't had more ganks down there, because that would be the prime target for me. If I'm an assassin, I'd like to go down to that bottom lane. I'd like to get, first of all, it upsets the Natan, Britannia. It keeps him in the back, keeps him down, keeps him without some of his items. It takes a little longer, hopefully, for him to kind of get some of the that come online. And right now, they're kind of just letting him have a free reign over this. And you can see BJK Esports have opened up this against,
Yeah.
I want to say, some of the veterans here with from S2G. And Begin gets taken down. We were talking about that damage coming out from Britannica.
Oh.
And Siggy Bum actually in trouble here, looking for an escape. We have the Zaman Force laid out. It is going to be slowing down BJK and allows him to kind of get some of those dashes and spam them away and find himself an escape before it becomes too many. But here, Brian already with that, I want to say, distraction, is going to be able to find himself the team's first Lord.
Yeah, it's 5 kills on the board for BJK, 2 turtles, and also able to take that Lord on top of that, which is going to open up the map even more in their favor to be able to siege the remaining tier 2 turrets for the mid and the bot side. Malefic Roar now picked up from Kazue. Definitely going to need that for that physical penetration to be able to soak into the members of BJK. But BJK, man, they've just been on fire so far. They were at a 3,000 gold lead last time we were looking at the ticker up there. Now they're past the 4K threshold, right? We're not even 10 minutes in, now getting to the 10-minute mark. So officially stepping into that mid-game territory, and they've been just stepping 1 foot ahead of the other, ahead of S2G Esports, yet to find a dent or a way to turn this back around on their side. And now with this Lord, they're going to have to defend, right? They don't want to give them any more opportunity than they've already claimed so far.
Yeah, Lord crashing down through the bottom. They've already, you can see towers barely touched on the side of BJK Esports. And this kind of reminds me of the problem we were talking about, that early game initiation that comes out from some of these assassins. If you're not able to capitalize on it, if you're not able to bring the pain with it, with the gold, with some of those upsets, we have a glorious pathway out there, you're going to have a rough game. Now we're starting to crash into that top high ground tower. You can see that starting to get a little pushed back a bit. Britannia is going to go ahead, put the damage up there. Yaya and Isaac coming down for this buff. And man, this already speaking some great I want to say macro on the side of BJK. As soon as they lose the tower, as soon as they lose the Lord, they immediately start choking out S2G Esports, take away their farm, take away any bit of gold that they can.
Yeah, and just a massive lead now at 6,000 gold. 11 minutes, 20 seconds in, and you know, Britannia, we've seen him just opening up this map left and right for the side of BJK, literally left and right, as he's in the top side and the bot side. And now this is where he's going to start hitting like a truck, right? As I'm pretty sure he's stacked out with his core items right now to be able to deal a lot of damage over to S2G. And it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I mean, even right there, you're seeing some of the stats on the board from all sides. Maybe we get a translator for that one. But nonetheless, I'm going to assume that meant, I don't think I was damaged because I was a little low. So maybe gold or something. But as you are seeing both sides getting ready to engage, look at BJK, right? They're sticking together. They know they already have the advantage on the map. They know they're up in the economy and the farm. And they don't want to allow any solo pickoffs, any room for mistake. And you got to respect it. S2G, though, they got a lot of things to make up for. They need to push their way up the map. They need to find a way to take the tier 3 turret in the mid lane. I don't even think they're in a position really to contest on this Lord that's going to be spawning in, as you are seeing Brian pick up that Malefic Roar, so he's going to have some physical penetration of his own on this Ling. Not to mention the Ling is something that S2G has to watch out for. Eyes in the skies, right? You have to watch out for that assassin who can pretty much come out of nowhere and dive straight into you. Speaking of assassins, Brian able to secure the Lord.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking at the beginning of the game where Ling will have a few problems because he's going to have to kind of hang back while his team gets the Lord. We're so far ahead on BJK. Oh, you're going to see them already going in for that purple buff. But we're so far ahead in gold. Ling is able to very safely take the Lord, sit there in the pit while the rest of the team is able to kind of keep S2G's esports at a distance here. So that's already telling you how far they're ahead, how they're comfortable now. Ling doesn't have to kind of hang back to kind of jump in with that pinch pose. And this is going to spell trouble for S2G because they can't even contest. At this point, they're stuck trying to turtle. They're waiting for a mistake from BJK, and they're doing a great job of kind of sticking together, being that little death ball that S2G Esports cannot contend with. Top high ground is down. We're going to go ahead. Ooh, a little bit of a pop-up onto the mid lane as well. You see that entropy coming out from Britannia. And we do have coming in, Brian comes in with that ultimate, but it's not going to be enough, more or less, to just distance the rest of the team. While he goes in, gets a fracture for his efforts, and the rest of his team is going to use that as an opportunity to back up.
hey, they got what they came for, right? Able to take all the inhibitor turrets standing for the side of S2G, and only losing Brian in the process is a trade they'll take any day. And now S2G is forced with their backs against the wall and a base crystal. Definitely going to have to be very careful and decisive on these next decisions, as we are now at that 15-minute mark, creeping into the late game. Speaking of late game, Entropy!
Oh, yeah, he comes in there. A big pop-up there comes out, followed by the glorious pathway. We have the Primal Rage, and Matilda doing a great job using that guiding wind. Does find another kill onto Chapo. Kazoo there finds himself a kill. Now he's going to go for his purple buff. He's starting. I mean, you'd never think that Nolan was a late scaling hero, but finally S2G Esports starting to find their footing on some wobbly ground.
Yeah, I mean, I respect it, right? They're playing like they're ahead when they're behind. And a lot of teams don't do that, right? They try and play more passive, wait for the other side to make a mistake. And unfortunately, time doesn't really work on their side, and the other team's able to push through. But when you play like you're ahead when you're behind, you may find that moment of opportunity to turn the tide back in your favor. And I feel like BJK found exactly that. They were able to get a kill and also able to take a turret on the top side, which is going to not bring them all the way back into the game, but a step in the right direction, right? As you are going to see that Divine Glaive picked up from Siggy Bum. He's going to have some of that magic pin now on this Harith. I think that was Athena's shield picked up by Lunar as well for some defense. Speaking of defense, that's really the name of the game right now for S2G, right? They have to, even though they're pushing up offensively, they still got to make sure they don't get picked off. I mean, the respawn timers are going to be massive, probably past that 30-40 second mark now for anybody that falls. So you want to kind of protect your ADCs, protect not only your marksman, but also your mage, as the Lord is now in play.
Yeah, now we're going in. A Lord is up. Guiding winds are out there onto two members. They're looking for an opportunity. We do have the Tempest Blades coming out from Brian. It does not connect. Isaac gets taken down by Lunar. Signs of life starting to show from S2G Esports. They lose the Lord, but they do find themselves a kill in its name right now. Oh, another ultimate there. Kazoo catches, you can see, catches a Yaya in the air. Finds a kill there. A guiding wind or a circling eagle of their own is going to be able to clear out another passenger there. Lord coming through the mid, but it does look like S2G Esports on their way to clean up.
I'll tell you what, I'm at a loss for words on how they were able to turn this around so easily. I mean, now it's 7-5, and S2G is in full control. Even without having that Lord on their side, they're able to get a full wipeout and open up the map. Now the inhibitor is standing in the mid lane and gonna start putting on some pressure toward those tier 2 turrets. I was expecting Britannia to maybe have a little bit more of a heavier impact, especially with the lead they had built already with him split pushing on those side lanes and taking these turrets with no contestation. Now, for the side of S2G, the ball's in their court, right? I mean, they don't have any inhibitor turrets standing, so they are going to have some great wave management. They're going to want to make sure they're clearing these minions and not allowing that backdoor play from the side of BJK. Not to mention, especially when you have a hero like Ling into the hands of Brian, he can kind of sit on that bush, wait for the team to engage, and then catch them off guard and try and close this out. Or even Britannia, who's been the king of split pushing so far, is a contender in a possible one to start that backdoor engagement. But if it comes to the 5v5, I mean, at least with what we've been seeing so far, S2G seems to be the one winning those trades.
Yeah, which is amazing to me right now. Especially, I mean, they caught they caught a Yaya using the IMU circling eagle, and they caught her in the air and were able to bring it down. That's just some great synergy from the team to be able to simultaneously bring that damage, catch them in the air. Oh, a big flicker into a pop-up there. Lunar goes deep into enemy lines, is going to be brought back with that guiding wind. Circling eagle onto the front line is going to push back the rest of BJK. They are going to be able to secure their purple buff, but you can see the fear is there for S2G Esports, who have managed to turn this around.
It's insane. This is only game number 1 of our first series of the day, and we're possibly going to be crossing that 20-minute territory threshold, right? We're going to see it really creep into that late game, and this is where it just boils down to who's has the way prio and who also is able to win the team fights, right? Who's going to make the first mistake, and this is where we start seeing, which was once, I would say, a 70-30 in BJK's favor, more to a 50-50 for both sides, and it's going to be a lot more challenging now for BJK, right? We got to see them how they played when they're ahead, but how do they play when they're on even playing field, or how do they play when they're behind? is going to be the next question. The Lord has spawned in, though. You already see them wasting no time. And Kazue, he needs to get there for a possible retry play.
Yeah, you can see there already great positioning by BJK. Brian comes in, is able to take the Lord. Pagu looking for an escape. We do have the Eternal Guardian in to secure his, I want to say, getaway there. We do have, Kazu comes in there, puts some damage on, but that's onto the tank right now. So I want to say Isaac really not fearing the damage that can be output. And just like thieves in the night, BJK go in, get the Lord, and find themselves a quick escape.
Ooh, Lord spawned in, though. In the mid lane, marching to the base crystal of S2G Esports. All their heart that they've built up so far, all their hard work. Will it all pay out, or will BJK close this game out after a slight mistake toward that mid phase?
Yeah, we do have a Circling Eagle comes out, lands on the 4 members there. They're trying to push with this Lord. We have an IMFenda going onto the team. Brian finds a kill onto Sagu, and you can see there, right? A great push there from BJK, despite a few mishaps, finds the first game in their name.
It was a little shaky, I'm not going to lie, but they were able to push on through. A great turnaround, able to take that Lord, and also able to take down the base crystal. We almost were at, what, a 20-minute game right there between both sides fighting it out. BJK, though, taking this game, but not by ease, right? In the beginning, we got to see them very aggressive, super early. 2 kills on the Lunar. A couple of technical difficulties right there. But then out of nowhere, toward that 6 to 10 minute mark, we thought, okay, BJK, they're good. They have this under control. But once we got closer to that 10-minute mark, once we got closer to that mid-game, this is when you start to see things turn around. This is when you start to see the defense from S2G come alive, and the pushback was real. Brian falling, Sigibum, Fauna Britannia, members dropping left and right for the side of BJK, as Isaac even falls right there for Lunar, who was off to that rough start as well. And this is where we start to think, okay, it's not a 70-30 no more, right? It's a 50-50 trade. But at the end of the day, only one team can remain victorious, and that is going to be BJK. A good way to close it out by taking that Luminous Lord, marching through the mid lane, and taking down the base crystal.
Yeah, like you said, there are few worries there into the mid game. It did seem like S2G was able to find some of them lacking. We've seen this before too. You can do very well throughout the entire game, but then when it comes to actually sealing the deal, all towers are down. You start seeing those little signs of life come out of a team. They're ready, they're prepared, and you can't just like steamroll over them. You need to have a plan when you go into that base, because that's where the teams are going to be most dangerous. They started finding pickoffs. They were waiting for the Ling Tempest of Blades to come out. And this is just the interesting thing, is like you saw the Tempest of Blades come out in the earlier clash at the base, and it was used to push away S2G Esports. As soon as that happened, yes, they got the tower, but it alerted the entire team, oh, this guy has no more ultimate left. Let's dive in. They were able to get the kill, and that kind of started the rebound for S2G. Eventually, I want to say they were able to kind of answer back and get them notes about them. But here, I mean, a great match by them.
Yeah, and before we jump into game number 2, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give these teams a little bit of time to form up a strategy. So we'll be going on a brief break, but we'll be right back.
The Snapdragon Pro Series is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Monster Energy, and DHL.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to get set and rolling with the second match of this first series between these two exciting teams. We've already seen a little bit of a back and forth between these teams. It's not a complete steamroll between them. S2G able to show some signs of life, able to take advantage of just even the smallest mistakes that come out. Ultimately, though, it was a win for their opponents.
Yeah, BJK able to push on through, right? Got to see them kind of lead the way majority of the game, but there were, like Private mentioned, some signs of life toward that mid game from the side of S2G. There's a chance for S2G to turn this around. Keep in mind, this is a best of 3, and this is match point in BGK's favor. If they close this one out, they're going to be moving on forward into the lower bracket finals up against Fireflex Esports. This is very important for S2G Esports to take this game right here. They're first in the draft, and they're going to go ahead and prioritize this Hylos.
Yeah, which is interesting because I do see some of the priority going on to Suyu, the fighter out there, but none really placed on the Alphas, onto the Xborgs, onto, I want to say, the Julian, which can really be a menace out there as well. We really heavily rely here on some of that early game. You see the Angela taken off the board, Khalid taken off the board, and the heavy prioritization on some of these, I want to say, support roams where they can give them a little bit more added mobility. We've seen Eve. This is something that's interesting to me because I haven't seen too many Eves kind of come out there, but she has like just recently kind of planted her feet into the meta and provided just a great, I don't even know how you say it, encapsulation for opponent teams. You put down that real world manipulation. You've got that little square where they're all stuck unless they try to leave, then they get stunned again. They get rooted down into the ground, which just creates just a huge, I want to say, pathway for your team to come in with a great engagement.
Yeah, the Eve's definitely a little bit interesting. We don't get to see it too often, but like you mentioned, it has been stepping into the pro scene more and more as we progress through the end of the year. Now, speaking of things we have seen, the Hayabusa, right? It's been an assassin that's definitely been a little bit of a threat, right? Having the quad shadows to be able to flex across the map gives them a lot of high mobility and also the opportunity to get some side lane pickoffs, which is something that BJK is going to have to watch out for. Not to mention when you have a hero like the Eve, right? You mentioned the grid squares, you mentioned the real world manipulation dropping down. The only weakness to that really is mobility, right? When you have a hero that can get out of that entire zonage from that ultimate, it kind of becomes less of a threat, and also could be a little bit of a problem for the Eve. Eve's a little bit stationary when you drop down that manipulation, and a mobile hero is definitely gonna try and capitalize on that. So they have some insurance, right? You have the Mathilda, able to keep the Eve alive. We like to say with the Mathilda and the guiding winds, if things are not in your favor, just guiding one out and bring the teammate with you, and you should be fine. But you can also use it as a tool for engagement as well, right? You can kind of use that circling eagle, bring somebody with you, and try and get a pick off. So we'll have to see how that works. One thing, though, for certain for BJK is they have the Burst Assassin, they have the Nolan, they have the heals from the Mathilda and the mobility, and then they also have some great AoE utility from this E. But what they're lacking, right, is a strong frontliner. They need somebody to be able to go in and pretty much set up the engagements. They don't really have a setter on their team so far. The circling eagle for me is just not enough, right? You need something that's going to be a little bit more of a heavy threat to initiate.
Well, yeah, and with what we've seen in the meta, I've talked about this before, and when it comes to some of the drafts, is we've seen a lot of fluidity when it comes to that gold position right now. So you don't necessarily need to have a marksman there. It depends. Nolan, I don't really know if that's going to really kind of... You usually like to do it when you have a Roger mid, a Bane mid, jungle, when you have those Roger or Bane jungles where they actually do a decent amount of tower damage, where you don't need that marksman into the gold lane. So you're allowed to maybe put a fighter there to kind of hoist up this composition. Yes, and you're exactly right. They need some type of front line here because, I mean, this is kind of... we're going into guerrilla warfare on the side of BJK, really. You're looking to kind of like prop up, get those kills, and hurry up and try to get out, which, I mean, in theory, on paper, it can work, but when it comes into the game plan, you got a lot of CC. They're going to be able to chase you down. You've got a Hayabusa. Now we're going to have to contend with a Cho. We need some type of peeling for our squishier targets.
Speaking of targets, artillery, just like guerrilla warfare, man, they're dropping some bombs with this feathered airstrike from this Farza stepping back. Man, it's been a while since I've got the pleasure of casting a game with the Farza versus the Eve on both sides, man. It's a lot of ground control available to both, and the Eve and the Farza are very similar, right? They're a little bit more stationary with their ultimates. Yes, you can use the flicker to be able to expand that distance, but they're only so far. Now, we've yet to see that frontliner that we were kind of hoping to see for the side of BJK, but there's still another slot for the XP laner to be positioned in for BJK, so we'll have to see where that goes. But for the side of S2G, some heavy footwork in the land of Dawn. Another hero that could give the Eve a little bit of trouble is that Cho, right? He can jump in with the Jeet Do. He can get the way of the dragon, especially with it being stationary. He can get that set up. There goes the final pick for BJK, though. The Zong, how we feeling about it?
Oh man, it's we were talking about maybe looking for something a little heavier. I was even kind of leaning towards possibly a Terizla out there, something that could kind of hold up the front line and combine well with the real world manipulation. The problem here is that we have that gaping hole of an issue when it comes to Eve. Eve lays down that real world manipulation. What is stopping the enemy team from not trying to run away, just like turning around and be like, all right, and just charging at her? So I mean, that's going to be the biggest issue here, and that means that Yuzong is going to have to work extra carefully to make sure that when that real world manipulation goes down, they are able to protect their mage there. Big thing too, Farza, great early game, a great amount of reaching mobility around the map. She's gonna be able to use that wings by wings to very quickly get to the sides of the map there too, to get some of those ganks into the side lanes. It'll be very interesting in this next game, Weezy.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are now jumping into game number 2 for the lower bracket of Season 6 SPS. Turkey, S2G Esports up against BJK. BJK sitting at match point.
Yeah, and you don't see it up there on the screen. There is a match point for this team right now, so they are fighting for everything that they can right now. S2G, you can see they're poking some damage. I love this, I want to say, aggression coming from Begin right now on a Farza. It's a very squishy target, so a lot of people usually like to kind of play it safe until you get that feathered airstrike, until you get that level 4 that'll be able to rain down some artillery. Pagu comes in here trying to do his best. Cho has become a mainstay on the meta right now, where he's able to get in, especially those great Cho players, where it's almost impossible to stop them from going into your group, finding that one target that they need, and using that way of the dragon to kick him back into the enemy hands.
Yeah, and you know, you're mentioning, speaking of plays, a flicker forced out and a quad shadow. A little bit of a close call for both sides right there, I would say. I mean, Pagu was very low. Look at Begin. They're on the chase.
Yeah, there is blood in the water. These guys smelled it. They were chasing for it. They really wanted it, but were not able to find it. He ran into enemy territory. They're like, something fishy about that. And they were exactly right, because Kazoo was just waiting and licking his lips for somebody to cross that line.
Yeah, both sides testing the water right now as the turtle spawns in, and Brian will go ahead and pull the aggro, but fear not, 3 members of SGG ready to engage.
Yeah, great. We have 3 members. S2G. Ooh, the feathered airstrike comes out, trying to zone out the rest of the team. Kazoo comes in like a thief in the night, grabs the retribution. Now he's out, finding a kill back as he comes in onto Isaac. Chapo comes in with a kill of his own, trying to make S2G Esports pay with that 1-to-1 apiece. But the turtle goes over to S2G Esports. Oh, we were talking about the way of the dragon. Comes out there, quad shadow. Kazoo finds a kill onto Chapo.
The placement of the way of the dragon and the quad shadow was poetry in motion. An amazing alley-oop setup from Pagu for Causeway to pick up his 2nd kill of the game. You mentioned that turtle play, right? He was able to, there goes that feathered airstrike we were looking forward to seeing. We mentioned Causeway, right? Able to rush in, able to get that kill, and also able to take the turtle on his side. That's going to be a trade working in S2G's favor. And now BJK, this is different than game number 1, right? They had it heavily in their favor. They got the first 2 kills. They got the first 2 turtles. This time S2G is playing ball, right? They understand we need this game if we want to stay in the open finals and not have to wait for the challenge season, and they're giving some pushback up against BJK.
Yeah, Spirit of Vengeance comes out there with a circling eagle all on the high-lows. Kazoo comes in for the kill. We have the shadow kill come out there, finds 2 members, and that's going to lead the killing list up to 3 right now. This is completely different. S2G Esports, especially Kazoo on this Hayabusa. You mentioned it a little earlier, that Way of the Dragon. Oh my God, he goes in again. Brian in trouble, gets a little bit of shield, thankfully, to Isaac with the save. But what I was talking about is going in. Pagu gets that Way of the Dragon kick. Then in comes the quad shadow. I can't even land quad shadows when there's not a moving target. Here you're talking about the synergy of S2G right now, able to land that in unison. Circling Eagle onto Pagu does land, and Isaac's gonna have to use that flicker. He gets latched onto, the shadow kill comes out, more damage. Kazoo finds a kill onto Isaac, and this is a completely different game from the first. 6-1 in favor of S2G Esports, now looking for a free turtle.
This is exactly what a break can do for you, right? Give them enough time to form a plan, and man, is it paying off so far for S2G. Now up 3,000 gold before the 5-minute mark, and we're not really seeing BJK on that same wavelength from game number 1, right? They're more on the reactionary side. They're not the aggressor. They're not the ones making the plays and forcing S2G's hand, as we are seeing some of the items on the board. Hunter Strike picked up from both junglers so far, but you are seeing Kazuya with a massive lead over Brian. I mean, even though he's 2 levels ahead and he has 6 kills on the board and climbing maybe.
Isaac made a mistake and latched on the Kazoo when he came in. He got taken back when the quad shadows went back to the back lines there. Oh, Kazoo comes in, finds a kill onto Isaac. Now latching onto Brian. Glorious Pathway is out, is not going to be able to help him with the escape. Yaya, very close to Lunar, is going to get pushed out of his jungle right now. It seems like whatever technical difficulties S2G Esports had in that first game, they have fixed that here in the second. Black Dragon is out, trying to latch onto Lunar, who is able to kind of keep up. He's not even afraid right now. The rest of the team coming in tow. Lunar is going to be able to live another day. Chapo in trouble, though, and this is what we were talking about. That front line of Yaya gets latched onto. The shadow kill comes out. Big pop-up comes. Kazoo finishes the job, and a beautiful Way of the Dragon onto Isaac is going to secure the next kill, bringing the kill lead from 9 to 11.
Yeah, 10 kills ahead of BJK so far in climbing. 11 of those kills, all of them into the hands of Kazuya. Amazing setups, though, from Pagu on this Cho. The Way of the Dragon has been huge here, right? He's just finding the single target setups, and Kazuya is making a kill off of it. So definitely some great synergy from not only the roamer, but the jungler rotating together for these setups. Turtle spawned in. Brian caught out of position. Lunar trying to go in, and Feathered Airstrike on the way out.
Oh man, right now BJK Esports are having a rough time. They're getting pushed back from their towers. They're pushed back from some of these turtles. They cannot come in. You're looking at about a 7K gold lead for S2G. It's completely the opposite of the first game. Shadow kill comes out, latches on, and that's going to be a kill for Kazoo. Another kill, and you pointed it out, 12, the entirety of the kills on Kazoo, on this assassin. If there was a textbook way to do things, this is it. You make sure that your assassin gets fed. He's the only person that's getting the kills, and he just continues this steamroll for your team.
Yeah, and right now, yet to find an answer for BJK Esports. There's a massive lead. We're almost at 7,500 gold in climbing, and not really much BJK can do here, right? Even, oh my gosh, Kazuya trying to engage.
Yeah, and the issue is they are really taking advantage of the circling eagle, of the guiding winds, from Isaac. Ooh, I was about to say that's a very brave marksman there to come in the middle of this team that is basically stomping your entire team there. Now we have Pagu comes in looking for the pop-up. They're going to go ahead and zone out. Shadow kill latches on to Isaac, finds the kill and able to find the double as well. Kazoo 14, 0 and 0.
Yeah, 100% of the kills are in his hands right now for this entire game. I don't think I've ever seen a game where all the kills are with one player, at least on a tournament scene. I wonder if he can keep that up all the way to the base crystal. On the bot side, though, you are seeing a 1v1 between Pagu and Brian. Does have the mobility, though. Brian trying to get out of there to safety, trying to get to that tier 2 turret.
Yeah, and this, oh man, he's already cornered, and Brian is in trouble. Does let out a little bit of damage. Way of the Dragon kick comes out from Pagu, does finish the job. And unfortunately, for the side of BJK, this is what you want to do when you're behind on a Nolan. You can't go in for the kills. You're not good in team fights, so you have to start finding that split pushing. And for the side of S2G Esports, they read that out very well. They have Pagu out there. Zaman Force laid down on the ground, finds the kill onto Isaac. The rest of the team dispersing Siggy Bum, not even able to chase them down. They wanted no part of that fight.
An outplay from Siggy Bum as well. That was a 3v1. He was able to take down Isaac, forced him to try and disengage, but unable to get away from his wrath. And then, even though he lost the turret, he was able to survive himself and buying SGG Esports some time, right? With them going back to the base, with them displaced, Kazue is going to go ahead and take this Lord. S2G still in total control right now, right? They're going to be pushing up the mid lane and trying to possibly get an early finish. And right now with the lead at 9,500 gold, they may be able to go for an early finish. I mean, we're just now passing the 10-minute mark. There's only been one kill on the board for BJK so far.
And I'm sitting here wondering, what do you do at this point? You waiting for a mistake from this team. You're waiting for somebody to get himself out of position. Ooh, we do have the quad shadows coming out. A little bit of a shadow kill too as well. Isaac comes in, does get taken advantage of as the entirety of S2G Esports lunge onto him. Do find a kill. Quad shadows out again. Shadow kill, latching onto 3 members and finding an escape is Kazoo, zoning out for his team to find one more high ground tower.
Ooh.
Now, quad shadows are back out again. Ooh, Brian able to find an escape, but Siggy Bum finds a kill. This is going to be it, tying things up. S2G Esports bring the heat to BJK.
The heat, the torch has been lit. S2G able to push on through and tie up this series, facing match point, but not wavering their determination. And now we're going to a game 3. I always say I love to see things go the distance, and that's exactly what we're seeing today as we look at some of the highlights from game number 2. A totally different team entirely. It's like right after the break, I don't know what they did, but it's working. And maybe BJK can do the same thing for game number 3. But that was a domination. That was a one-sided story. The wrath, the pressure, the domination from Kazue on this Hayabusa pocket pick. The man was on fire. Look at that, 9-0-0 right there. Majority of the game, 100% of the kills were in his hands, and a lot of the setups were from Pagu on this Cho with the Way of the Dragon. And we mentioned Ayaya on this Eve. We talked about the placement of the manipulation is going to be a little bit of an upscale battle, just due to the fact of the high mobility from the Cho, from the Hayabusa, and the Hylos. Just not the easiest targets to be able to get a setup on. But setup is exactly what S2G did today to tie up the series.
And I want to say right from the draft, there were issues. You called it out there. We had no real CC. We had no real tank, no front line for our team. And the side of S2G Esports really took advantage of it. That was an easy game for the camera person. You just kind of lock that camera onto Hayabusa, onto Kazue, and just and then relax, because he was a highlight reel throughout the entire team. We talked about it. All the kills going on to Kazue. Great. We haven't seen that in a very long time. Ever since I want to say 131 used to be a thing for Mobile Legends, where you basically just felt the jungle, or you fed the jungle, and he just kind of moved around and did his thing, and you got all the kills on there for him. But we're gonna see if there's an answer from their opponents.
Yeah, guys, we're going to be going to a quick break, so don't go anywhere. Grab some popcorn, get some drinks, and we'll be right back for game number 3.
I'm the big dog, been killing it since tip-off. Come with it or stay home, the people gon' feel ripped off. It's only major leaguers in the office. If you giving half of an effort around the rest of us, you'll make it awkward. I'm about that action, not the one you talk with. You better hope I'm not the one your coach gon' have you out here really guarding. It took a lot for me to get here, but I have arrived. I really made it and the haters be looking surprised. Been down before, but now I'm better.
The Snapdragon Pro Series is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Monster Energy, and DHL.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are at a tie. You might not have thought about it from the first game here, but S2G Esports coming back with a vengeance against BJK right now brings us to a tie for this best of three. We love to see it. We love to see that fighting spirit in both teams.
And not just a comeback of original nature, right? A fancy comeback. They're able to dominate in game number 2. It's looking like a totally different S2G Esports from the first game, which is going to bring BJK back to the drawing board right now with both teams tied up. This is match point for both sides to be able to close out the series in the lower brackets and move on forward to the lower bracket finals to be fighting up against Fireflux Esports. So definitely place your votes on your favorite teams. Guys, make sure you follow Snapdragon Pro Series on social media, checking out the latest and greatest highlights as well. But today, it's been full of surprises, right? I didn't expect S2G to swing back so heavily in a one-sided domination for game number 2.
Yeah, and I mean, this, I not that I don't like the fighter meta, but man, it is so nice to see those assassins out there styling on people, especially S2G Esports was able to use the Cho, use the Way of the Dragon, then you had the quad shadows coming in there to match where the Way of the Dragon landed. It's just poetry in motion for me, and I love to see those little mechanical plays that a lot of these players can make. Here, right now. We're going to see, I mean, BJK had a few issues. I want to say we called it during draft. There was no front line. There was no peel for their team, no CC to really stop or punish anybody. And S2G Esports really took advantage of that, just kind of drilled right into the team. It was, I mean, for a lot of kills that just I don't even know, I think it was like 14 there on a Hayabusa with no kills on the rest of the team. It was just I'm gonna say a huge display of power for the side of S2G. So we know BJK is going to be making some changes to this draft.
Yeah, I mean, S2G has prio for this draft as well, their first pick, so it will give them a slight advantage to kind of prioritize their selections. There goes that EVA again. It started to become a repetitive pattern. It's like crazy to me. Without having a Vexana banned on the board, without having oh no, the Vexana is, no, that's Azushin. The Vexana is still available, and it's still the Eve that's being prioritized over here for some artillery and utility. Now, BJK, I think they kind of heeded to our words and maybe learned the hard way of not having a traditional frontliner to be able to keep them alive, especially when you have an assassin that can wiggle his way through with the quad shadows. This is a different game plan. This is a different strategy for draft number 3, right? They have an Edith and a Ruby. They picked them up first. The Edith can be flexed in the XP lane, flexed into the roam position. The Ruby can be flexed into the roam, the XP, or the gold lane as well. So definitely some versatility when it comes to this draft. There goes that Ling. All 3 of these heroes are great options, right? They're excellent on not only crowd control, but sustainability, mobility as well, and also to be able to get to a backline hero such as this Eve, who's going to be dropping down that RWM.
Yeah, I completely whatever holes or issues they had with that second draft here, they've completely covered that up with this draft. They're like, all right, no tanks, no CC. All right, now we're just gonna start it off with the tankiest, the most CC-est heroes that are out there right now, CC wise and peeling wise for their team. Not just that, but you see that the real world manipulation has been picked up. You see that the Zaman Force has been picked up, but answered with that, BJK goes with the Ling, which is going to be able to negate a lot of that with the Tempest of Blade. They're not going to be able to hit him through that. He's going to be able to find himself an escape as well. So it's going to be very tricky for the side of S2G Esports to play this composition correctly.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more of a challenge than what we've seen in game number 2. I don't expect them to fly through everything that fast, right? I'm not looking at Causeway picking up 15 kills in 10 minutes uncontested, especially when you have heavy crowd control like that and a lot of sustainability. It's not going to be an easier path. They're going to need a tank burster, right? They need to pretty much shred down the beefy lineup that BGK has, and I feel like the Harith is a good start, right? Harith, one of those ADCs who likes to get up close and personal. Now, where do we go from here, right? The Ling has been taken up from BJK. The Hayabusa technically still on the table, but it's not going to be easy to pick off a hero like the Ruby, a hero that can just latch onto a couple of minions and get all that HP back. A hero that's very hard to dive into. Almost, I would say, an excellent counter to that Hayabusa pickup. Now, Nolan has been banned out as well, so they're really boiling down to trying to limit the options available to Causeway.
Yeah, right now, BJK, we're looking for a mage, we're looking for that marksman, and we're looking together with some of those, a combination of something that's early game, that'll help them in the early, because we have a lot of late hitters. Vexana, great answer to that early game, right from the get-go, right from the level 3, is going to have so much damage, so much CC on their side. I was going to say there's that or the Valentina, which was already strategically taken off the board. So we have a great answer for that. Now we're just looking for a marksman maybe that can help us in the early game, or maybe kind of carry us through some of that mid game for some of these possible objectives. Maybe even the Moskoff would come through. Ooh, this is something we do not see too often. And look at that win rate there too. Picked twice, 100% win rate on a Hilda, which is very interesting.
I'm expecting this to be Hylos XP lane and Hilda possibly roam. And the only reason I'm saying that is because usually when we see this kind of combination, usually the Hilda is going to be very aggressive, right? It's going to go into that bush, get that regen, and pretty much hug the purple buff from Ling, right? Trying to limit Brian from being able to get those buffs to be able to be such a threat. There goes the Hayabusa again. Look, he's not worried about it. Causeway said, hey, I don't care what you have all tanks on your side. It's not going to stop me with this assassin. And there goes Hayabusa back in the building. But like we said, it's a totally different lineup he's going up against, right? Totally different heroes. And that window of opportunity, which was pretty much free for the taking for him in game number 2, I feel like with game number 3 is going to be an upscale battle. It's a lot of sustainability, not to mention a lot of mobility when you have the Ling as well. But there are some threats on the table, right? I mean, if you have Hilda rushing in, if they can get the invasion onto the buffs for Brian, it's a good start to pave the way in the early game and start that snowball for S2G Esports. But at least I would say for this game, I like the way the draft is looking for both sides. I feel like it's not as clear-cut on who's kind of winning on this one, but I still favor BJK. Just because I feel like it's when there's an X Factor pick, something like the Hilda that we haven't seen in a while, it kind of gets me turning some gears and scratching my head a little bit. And sometimes the X Factor plays can be great, but sometimes they can work out really bad. But it's up to S2G Esports to let us know which way that is going to go. But let us know how you guys feel about it in the audience, which team you're swinging for. This is match point between BJK and S2G Esports.
Yeah, match points, a draft that can lean. I mean, I want to say the Hayabusa, the Hilda, usually works well into a squishier composition here. There's not very many targets right now, so they're going to have to be extra careful about that early game, who they can get the kills on, who they can kind of group against. It's going to be very interesting to see how S2G Esports really kind of prepare for this, prepare with this match. Just like we said, the Hayabusa, I mean, with a game like the second game, why not pick Hayabusa again? Because apparently he's a god on it. We're about to see here as we go into the third and final game of this series.
Yeah, we got to see how effective will Kazuya be up against a beefier lineup. Was it a fluke or was it destiny? Or do we have a comfort pocket pick that can stand the test of time against any composition? Match point for both sides. They're battling it out to go into the lower bracket finals.
Ooh, you do see that first already, punishing S2G Esports for all of that aggression in the early game. And that's the problem here. You've got a very aggressive composition here, really meant to take down squishies, and then you're confronted by this beefy, tanky front line of BJK. You've got the CC that's already online for a Yaya, and there is just no going home when you're caught.
Yeah, and this is going to be a good start for BJK, and we were wondering about that X Factor pickup on the Hilda. It's already fallen within the first minute of this game. Definitely not looking promising. Want to play a little bit more passive. I know you get it. You can sustain yourself. You hide in that bush. You can regen. But not if you have a full team of BJK trying to burst you down.
Already, though, we see that that has not slowed down S2G Esports. They're going to actually continue putting the pressure on. And interestingly enough, it's not in the, I want to say the roam position. It's in the XP lane. So, which is really interesting because that means that Lunar is going to have to clear his lane, then try to go into the jungle to still kind of create that pressure. Catches a Yaya, might be in trouble here. 3 members latching onto Lunar. Brian comes in, is not able to put enough damage on. And Lunar finds a very quick escape.
It's like it never even happened. He's already back to 50% HP just from standing in that bush for a couple of seconds. And that just shows you how much of a threat this Hilda can be. An unexpected X Factor pick as the turtle now spawns in, both sides ready to try and go in for this objective. Brian does not have his purple buff, though. 10 seconds until that spawns in. He does pick up the orange, and that leads to the question, is he going to go in for that? You already see Kazuya going toward that purple buff, which may give him a little bit more of an advantage and force Brian on a delay for the turtle start.
Yeah, and right now, just 1 kill over for BJK. Just a little bit there to set the tone. Kazuya doing a good job on the turtle. Rest of the team is looking, trying to create. Oh, they're going to go ahead, latch on the Chapo. Has some damage, is not going to be able to flicker away. Kazuya comes back through the turtle. Real world manipulation is out. Brian looking for an opportunity, is not able to find the turtle. Tempest the Blades at the bottom. He's looking for an escape right now with the glorious pathway out there. Lunar is going to have to back up. Pagu at the front lines. A Yaya in trouble. They are able to find an escape. A great job by Chapo to kind of fend off that and provide that road for his team. Now Lunar, they're putting the boots to him. Oh, Brian maybe bit off a little bit more than he could chew. He is going to back off from this fight.
And they got to play aggressive for SCG Esports, right? Especially having this Hilda on their side. They got to lean in on the offensive approach. And it's starting to pay off, right? Brian a little bit slower on the rotation. She did make it in time to the turtle, but the retro was a lot faster from Kazue to be able to secure it, and then not able to find the kill for BJK to find a proper trade-off is going to give STG at least the slightest advantage for the early phase. Now you are seeing, like we said, this Hilda into the hands of Lunar will be XP lane, so it'll force him to kind of clear out these minions and then rotate over for some possible pick-off plays. So can be a little bit of a challenge, but he is still running this flex position, right? He's not going for his minions, but he's trying to go in for the denial plays onto the buffs from Brian so far. As you're speaking about both sides, though, Brian picking up that Legion Sword. Hunter Strike picked up by Kazue a little bit faster on the jungle, just due to them being able to pick up that turtle over BJK.
Even with the amount of pressure that they've started to put on the Brian, there's only about a 500 gold lead by Kazoo right now. So I want to say, especially as we move into the mid game, as we move into the late game, it's going to be harder and harder for S2G Esports to kind of get the ground underneath their feet with I want to say a composition that really heavily favors that early game, heavily favors that invade possibilities. BJK held the line. Now they're doing well. Glorious Pathway is out. The entire team going to go ahead for this clash. Big pop-up landing onto the team. The team was ready for it. BJK laying down the damage. Pagu in trouble. Does not make it out. Isaac there with the kill. You can see Siggy Bum coming in there is going to be able to return the favor 1-to-1 apiece. That's setting up this first Lord. Lunar looking for an invade into that, and it's going to cause a huge distraction. Kazoo swoops in, gets the retribution, while Siggy Bum answers back and find himself a kill as well.
Yeah, 3-3 on the board, but the next turtle again going over to S2G Esports. Kazue just way faster on the retry plays, especially up against Brian, who's having a little bit of a rougher start. But he is putting on that pressure, rotating around. The split push of this Ling can be huge, especially when you're playing from behind.
Oh, Brian is in trouble, getting chased down by Pagu. What I love about that Lord play is they took advantage of a misstep by the side of BJK. Britannia went in with the Spear of Vengeance and found himself in the turtle pit. Once he was in there, he dashed inside the turtle pit. He had no escape, so Lunar came in there. Now we have another fight coming on here. Isaac gonna find a kill onto Lunar. Begin try to lay down the real world manipulation to help out the teammate. To help out his teammates to secure that as well. Tied up right now, 4-4 apiece, barely a 1K gold lead for the side of S2G.
Yeah, but Siggy Bum having a great performance so far, right? 3-0-0, highest kills in the game across both sides. Speaking of Siggy Bum, there he goes right there. Finding Britannia on this Moskov. Now we know Britannia with the Moskov, he can split push. You got to watch out for those plays, especially when he chunks that spear across the map. He has the ability to pretty much join a team fight at a moment's notice. And that's something that I feel like BJK should lean in a little bit more on. For STG, though, they're almost at a 2K gold lead. Definitely in control of this game so far. Looking to try and push in the turret in the mid. Both sides yet to find a tier 3 in the mid lane, which means I would say it's kind of even on ground control, especially with both losing tier 3 turret on opposing lanes. Now, right now, Kazue, definitely a little bit of a slower start. I feel like in game number 2, he had about 7 kills right now. It was like a kill per minute. Now he's only sitting at 1, but he's able to find these retries over Brian on the 50-50s.
Ooh, Britannia gets found out. Lunar is on his case right now. He's not going to be able to follow 3 under the tower, but it is going to go ahead, create that space that S2G Esports need for this turtle. Turtle kind of sitting there. They're actually not on it. Oh, Britannia gets taken down. Lunar comes back around the bend for a second try. Is going to be able to take down the marksman. That's going to have 1 down for the side of S2G Esports, possibly setting up this next turtle take. Isaac and the front lines there competing against Lunar, but is going to have to back up. Look at the chunking being done right now by Lunar. Ooh, I'm offended, comes out, catches Lunar. Is that going to be enough?
Yeah, just a lot of pressure. Great zone is from Pagu and Lunar combination, but now maybe punished.
Yeah, they're going to go in. And, ooh, Spear of Vengeance is out. Are they going to come in there? He decides against it. Lunar does find a kill onto Isaac. Glorious Pathway is out. 3 members out there. Lunar gets taken down. The rest of the team looking to scramble. Tied up right now. Britannia finds a kill onto Pagu. Now going to go ahead, focus their efforts on to this Lord. Kazue and Sigibum hiding in the bush, looking for an angle. They aren't going to be able to find it, but Sigibum does find a tower for the side of S2G Esports.
Yeah, and that's going to be a 2-for-1 trade, but a stalemate on this Lord now may be taken from BJK to kind of gain control of this game. A high-value target, but keep an eye on Causeway, right? He's starting to inch his way over there. He has the quad shadow, but I don't think he'll be able to close the distance!
Woo! Comes in quickly, finds himself that retribution, but now the tables have turned on the side of BJK. Lunar able to answer back with 2 kills of their own.
Ooh, quad shadow. A little bit of those shurikens thrown out as well, trying to deal the final touches onto Brian, but falling short. But nonetheless, still winning overall on the objectives. S2G taking a tier 3 in the mid lane, now putting some pressure onto the tier 2 for the top side, and you're already seeing some great wave management from Sigibum on the bottom as well. But with the Lord and BGK's favorites, a way for them to contest.
And right now, I mean, a great job. S2G Esports was really able to kind of turn this around. 2 towers for the side of BJK. They're not completely backed up just yet. And only a 300 gold lead by S2G. So that's not really even a lead. And this basically just goes to team fights right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we're only 10 minutes in. It's mid-game. It's not even an enhanced Lord, but it's some breathing room, right? It's BJK able to remain comfortable and still find an advantage, because with that Lord on their side, they may be able to take this tier 3 in the mid, and that's exactly what they're going to go for. And S2G, they have to focus on the Lord, so they can't even really go in for a proper contest. And now the wave management prio is in BJK's favor.
Ooh. And you see there a great combination. They're able to take down a Chapo. S2G Esports are just marching down mid lane, able to take all comers right now. You can see the flank coming out here. A great, I want to say, flank coming out from S2G Esports. They're moving as a group. They're trying to clear lanes behind S2G, or behind BJK right now. Actually, now they're getting chased back, but it's just a great group there. We do have the glorious pathway out. Rest of S2G going to go ahead and charge and create that distance, but BJK answer it well. They're going to back up. They don't want any fight just yet.
And this is a very close game so far. I mean, it's neck to neck, 10-8 on the scoreboard. Only a 400 difference between gold for both sides, and I wouldn't even say that's really a major advantage. But right now, both sides, I'd say it's equal footing. You are seeing that Demon Hunter sword picked up from Britannia. A little bit of a slower start for Britannia. We saw a couple of pickoffs. Lunar able to catch him out of position and able to burst him down. But this is where the Moscow's going to start shining, right? You have the Spear of Destruction to be able to go in at a moment's notice, get a possible pickoff, or traverse across the side lanes for a backdoor play. Something that SCG is going to have to be careful about. Speaking of BJK, though, BJK grouping together, making sure that Brian is getting all of these buffs. Look at the gold grass so far. Look how even both sides have been. It's almost like right down the middle, but now you're starting to see it kind of go toward S2G. The further it goes, that they're starting to equalize this economy and make it work in their favor. Now up by 1,000 gold. And this was just in the past minute, right? It was at 400. Now we're at about 1,000. Now going back to 759. And it's still pretty close. 12 minutes in, still mid-game. Close to that late game as we get to that 14-minute mark. We are seeing the Lord spawned in. And the question is who will be able to take this. Last one was taken by BJK. They were able to turn the tide back in their favor and even up this map. But now Brian!
Yeah, Brian gets caught on. Oh, we do have the shadow kill goes out there, is not able to latch on. Brian very quickly uses his ultimate there. We do have the Tempest of Blades coming out now. Kazue gets taken down by Isaac. Real manipulation has been laid out. Lunar finds a kill onto Chapo. Zaman Force down. Britannia also down. Finds a secondary kill onto Ayaya.
No.
And Begin finds Isaac. That is 1 down for S2G Esports. 4 down for BJK. They were just looking for an opportunity. They find it and are able to kind of capitalize off of it. And now Brian very quickly is going to have to make use, try to create some pressure at these side lanes.
You know, it's a hard decision here, right? I mean, they lose 4 members for BJK, but they take down Causeway, so there's no retry for S2G. It's a little crazy how that played out. Forcing Brian to split push onto the side lanes to keep control of the map. I feel like right there, BJK or S2G, they could have, I guess they take the Lord, so it still works in their favor. That's it. They could have even pushed through the mid lane and tried to take an inhibitor. But nonetheless, with this Lord on their side, though, it's a little bit more insurance. With Causeway back in the board, with all 5 members spawned in for both sides, Luminous Lord in favor for S2G Esports, now at a 3,500 gold lead. That gold graph is just at such an incline right now for S2G, as you are seeing a lot of items picked up. The Genius Wand, you are seeing a lot of heavy-hitting components as we get into that late game, and Luminous Lord marching through the mid and a possible chance to open up the base for BJK.
Man, this is kind of a little turn of what we saw from the first game as well. S2G Esports were just looking for an opportunity to turn this around on BJK. Now they have a Lord knocking at their door. Temps the Blades has been laid out, now zooming around the map. Britannia does find a kill. Begin answers right back. Kazué finds a kill onto Britannia. That is a full team wipe, and this is going to be the series for S2G Esports.
Yeah, able to close it out with match point and shut down BJK, and earns their spot in the lower bracket finals. Well deserved, but definitely not the easiest way to do it. Some great competition. We got a bid farewell over there to BJK. I mean, they were looking promising game number 1, right? They came out strong, and hopefully as we see them in the challenge season, we'll be able to see that spark again. But nonetheless, the story for right now is all going to be about S2G Esports. Man, they came alive, right? The reverse sweep in effect. Able to win game 2 and game number 3 after that domination from BJK in game 1.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of thankful it happened before I had a chance, because I was about to talk about the failure of Lunar on this Hilda. Once you start getting into that mid and late game and Hilda is behind, she doesn't really have a huge use during your team fights, and she becomes more of a liability. But they were able to turn it around very quickly, waiting for those power spikes, and maybe a little bit too much of a hesitation on the side of BJK there to take advantage of that early game and really push it forward. Allowed the side of S2G to kind of get what they needed, get that gold up for them, to get those power spikes, and then continue on with some of these pushes.
Yeah, and S2G, seems as soon as Kazué got that Hayabusa, it was wraps, right? He was able to deal all the damage necessary, able to find the kills, and majority of the time able to take the neutral objectives over Brian, even when it came to a 50-50 retribution, which should have been more in a Ling's favor, right? When you have the tips of blades, still not able to pull it off, and that just shows you how strong of a contender S2G's jungler is. So definitely credits over there to Kazué on this Hayabusa. But overall, the team's looking strong. They got another challenger to go up against, though, as we are going to be stepping into the lower bracket finals. They're going to be going up against Fireflux Esports, right? Fireflux, definitely one of those crowd favorite teams. We got to see them in the international scene. It's actually interesting because we've seen both S2G Esports and we've seen Fireflux always be the heavy hitters out of the Turkey region, make it in further than majority of the teams in the international events. And here we get to see it again. And now to raise the question, will this be the chance, the turning point for S2G Esports to be known as the heavier hitting contender when it comes to them up against Fireflux?
I was about to say, they're going to be known as the heavier hitter when it comes up, because we've got these big leaguers that are about to go up against each other. And this kind of just shows that veteran tendencies, that experience that kind of comes out that we were talking about at the beginning of the cast, where you have a team that has experience. They've been at this stage before. BJK, I mean, hats off to them. They played some great games in the, especially in that first game where this happened. S2G Esports was able to reply, and BJK was able to hold the line. However, here at the last game, they tried it again, but this time S2G Esports was just so forceful with that turnaround. BJK was never able to kind of get their breath, and eventually got overwhelmed. And that just shows that experience from the side of S2G and their players there. So hats off to them, and a great game.
And hats off to you guys out there in the audience enjoying this series alongside us. Before we step into the lower bracket finals, though, we're going to be going on a short break, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be back momentarily.
And it's all good. Feel like I'm the big dog, been killing it since tip-off. Come with it or stay home, the people gon' feel ripped off. It's only major leaguers in the office. If you giving half of an effort around the rest of us, you'll make it awkward. I'm about that action, not the one you talk with. You better hope I'm not the one your coach gon' have you out here really guarding. It took a lot for me to get here, but I have arrived. I really made it and the haters be looking surprised. Been down before, but now I'm better than I've ever been. Through all adversity, I saw them right now at the whatever the problem, we'll solve them. Make it through together, it'll be all love, and it's all good. Yeah. Okay. They say pressure makes diamonds. That's what I align with, cause the journey I've been climbing is riddled with perfect timing. I'm in a different mode when I be trying to get it. To even get a chance to compete is a form of winning. I mean, what's the point of playing if we ain't striving for greatness? I feel a sense of pride with every play that I'm making. To the top of the world when I came for the basement. Boy, I'm the one and not the two, so don't get it mistaken.
My crew, yeah, we're lawless. Got the man, them thinking that we're flawless. Yeah, mama told you that I'm gorgeous. Got a million tricks, can't deport us. I'm a flame in the star, call me gassed. Back foot slidey, I'm slick to the mass. Calling to the tribe, it's a revolution past. Present in time, no, we can't be masked. So you better rise up, cool up, size up. Shout out loud, down before the time's up. So we better rise up, cool up, size up. Shout out loud, down before the time's up. If we break bread, then I'm coming like a eeler. If you want beef, then I tom beater. If you want beef, then I tom. 789, that's procedure. If we break bread, then I'm coming like a eeler. If you want beef, then I tom beater. If you want beef, then I tom.
The Snapdragon Pro Series is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Monster Energy, and DHL.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Leaving one exciting series and jumping right into the next exciting one as well.
Yeah, we are going to be jumping into the lower bracket finals. Papara up against S2G Esports. Now, this is going to be an exciting one, right? We get to see how these teams fare off against each other. Now, S2G Esports, we just got to see them up against BJK. Ended in a 2-1 to be able to claim their seat right here. But it was a close call. They won with the reverse sweep. And now they're going to be fresh off of that victory. Hopefully they can keep that momentum rolling as they jump to the new series. But Papara, on the other hand, they've had a little bit of a break. So we got to see, is their head in the right place?
Yeah, a little bit of a break, but due to hard work, because they made it along a little farther, fought a little harder, were able to get that seat up ahead of S2G Esports. And like you said, we're going to see if that little bit of a break might have something in the mindset, especially for a team like S2G, who has the ball rolling, who has a little bit of momentum behind them. They're going to be going up against a team that is kind of, I want to say, going to be starting from cold. It's going to be their first match of the day, and we're going to see if that kind of affects them through it. S2G Esports, we've already seen. I want to say the first thing on my mind would be possibly we might want to go with a ban on the Hayabusa. We've seen how well S2G has handled that and was able to kind of maneuver it around, even maneuver it around a composition that really didn't seem on paper like it would favor a Hayabusa. There were only like 2 targets there. The rest of them, it was a heavy CC, heavy tanky composition, but still S2G Esports found those little ingredients that they needed for a victory.
Yeah, now up against Papara, right? They've been doing really decent in Season 6 of SPS. I mean, they made it all the way to the upper bracket finals, and they were taken down by Fireflex Esports. It ended in a 2-1. And that was what dropped them down here to the lower bracket finals. So it's been a little while since they've got to jump in and compete, right? They took a little bit of a break. They watched all the teams fight it down in the lower bracket to get to this mark. And now a chance again to rise right back up to the occasion. Both these teams are going to be fighting it out for a seat into the grand finals for the open finals of SPS Season 6. But it's only one spot available. Who will be able to take it? It's still going to be a best of 3. But let us know which team you guys are voting for out there in the audience.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing spot for both of these teams. I mean, especially because this kind of is going to bring them that momentum that they need into that final leg of the bracket to earn themselves a little bit of cash and a seat moving forward here. A big thing right now, what we've seen. We've kind of seen a little bit of a revival of that assassin meta that we had talked about. I kind of assumed it was kind of dead, but here right now we're seeing a little bit how great it can be, the assassin meta, to kind of get in there, get some of those kills, and even the dances around the lords. They're able to very cleanly get in, find those retributions, find themselves an escape as well. So it's very interesting to me, especially, I mean, I kind of liked the assassin meta. I wasn't ready to change yet. I don't like change, and it came very quickly. I felt like we didn't even get an opportunity to really cast or see some of those great plays. But here right now, assassin meta living very strong with a lot of these teams.
Yeah, and then also being able to have the pleasure of seeing some X Factor plays sneak up in there, right? We always like to see some surprises along the way. That Hilda definitely caught me off guard. I was like, maybe they put it into their own position, and it still was in the XP lane, but flexed into like a little bit of a hybrid role, right? Being that harasser on the buffs next to the XP lane was crucial to some of the engagements and the advantages that S2G Esports had up against BJK. But now, up against Papara in the lower bracket finals, we are going to be jumping into the draft for game number 1 of this best of 3, and it's going to be first pick for Papara, right? They've had a great journey so far. They made it all the way to the upper bracket finals, losing to Fireflex Esports 2-1, but they were able to take a victory off of them, which means this is not a team that you want to take lightly, right? When it comes to S2G Esports, though, on the other side, they have an interesting story of their own. They clawed their way in the lower bracket to this moment, and here they are again for another shot and an opportunity to make it into the grand finals, as whoever wins this series will earn that final seat to go up against Fireflex yet again. Will it be Papara going for that revenge after being knocked down to the lower bracket, or will it be the story of S2G Esports clawing through the lower bracket and making it into the grand finals.
It's very interesting there. I'm gonna take my best effort there for one of these names, Blotzfet. That is a tongue twister for me. That's going to be a very fun to cast there. We do see a little bit of the prioritization. Chip is just not going to see the light of day for a very long time for a lot of these teams. They've even nerfed him a bit, and he still is just such a menace out there that I want to say I'm pretty sure in most regions he's got 100% or bordering on 100% ban rate for a lot of these places. And Matilda taking off the bet there as well.
Yeah, right now we're seeing a lot of the roamers taken down from the side of SCG Esports. 3 roamers down off the board entirely, if you including both sides, and then the Nolan response. The Ling's still on the table. The Hayabusa still on the table. These have been the only other 2 assassins that we've been seeing picked up. Something also interesting that is a little different in Turkey than what we've seen typically from our perspective region is the artillery mages having some heavy prior, right? We've been seeing the EU slotted a lot more here, even over like heroes like the Vexana. The Jushin, yet to be banned out, could be a viable option for either side. We haven't even got to see a Phoveus or Khalid sneak into the scene yet. I've been wondering, when are these 2 heroes going to get some light? I wonder if, for the side of Turkey, if it's just not heavily prioed for their meta like it is for us out here in North America.
Well, and that's interesting. We did see a ban on the Khalid in the last series. So, I mean, but it's just, and then it was gone again. It was a ban, and it was like, oh, that's a mistake. They just took it off the ban again, and then still nobody picked it. So, I mean, really interesting, and maybe something that one of these teams can use to kind of really turn it into their advantage. We have seen Khalid, we have seen Phoveus just rain terror on compositions in North America, and it's just not here right now. Zuxin, however, seen her rain a lot of terror. Let me just take a moment to get on my soapbox here, bro, with how frustrating it can be to face a Zuxin in some of these fights, because I mean, especially if she's able to kind of get that ability onto you, it slows you down, you're not able to escape it, then she's throwing you all around the map. You would think on paper it would be rough, especially with her clear speed, especially with some of the mana issues that she has. But man, once it hits mid game, once it gets into that late game, she picks up a Clock of Destiny. She's got all this mana for herself. She becomes this huge issue on a lot of teams.
And, you know, with that Lantern Flare, just the AoE circle damage that it provides, it's really good at zoning out plays from the mid laner, right? It's also good at zoning out heroes from trying to invade your jungler, which is great early game pressure. But then that Crimson Beacon ultimate, right? It's like Odette with the Swan Song. It's just the AoE potential of it is quick, it's mobile, and it's something you don't want to take lightly. Now, it's going to be paired up with the Hayabusa and an Edith. We were talking about the Assassins. We saw the Nolan was banned out, but we mentioned a Ling is still available in the Hayabusa, and they're going to go for the higher prio. And at least for what we've been seeing today, the Hayabusa typically has been winning a little bit more. I mean, we saw a game where, every minute the Hayabusa was getting a kill, and 100% of the kills were going over to Kazue. But that was over on S2G Esports. This time around, though, it's a counterplay as they took away that pocket pick away from Causeway and puts it into the hands of Papara.
Yeah, that was a thing I was going to bring up too. They very wisely going to take away that Hayabusa pick. It is going to leave him open with the Ling there. 47% win rate, which is very interesting to me because, like I said, they're very assassin heavy in this region right now, and Ling has just really kind of been suffering away with that. And we've talked about this before. Ling is great when he gets his items, when he gets that crit, but the biggest problem for Ling is being able to kind of get to those objectives. He can do it well. Great players can use that Finch pose, get in, get that retribution, get out, but there's just a lot of boxes you need to check to be successful with him, to be careful, to not get CC'd down. We even saw it in the last series where Hilda was just basically hunting, looking for Ling. As soon as they found Ling, Hilda went in, got the stun, knocked him off the wall, and that's what pretty much initiated a team fight and was ultimately the downfall that allowed S2G to move forward. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they can protect the sling, maybe even, especially with a Cho on their side, you have the opportunity for that. You have the opportunity to get that way of the dragon in, isolate a team member, and then you don't need to push forward into the enemy team. You're just pushing back into that way of the dragon. Everybody gets on that one person, and then that sets you up for an objective fight.
Yeah, and I mean, when we're looking at both sides, I think we can both agree there's answers, right? It just depends on who can find that answer a little bit faster. When it comes to the early game, when it comes to the first turtle, you have the Ling who can go in with the Finch Poise. You have the Tempest Ablaze for the invulnerability to be able to get that retribution, and that's what I would say. It's not really a 50-50 retro at that point. It's more like a 70-30 because nobody can stun you, nobody can damage you. You just have to hit that retro button and you should be good. For the Hayabusa, though, I guess it's the same thing, right? You can go in with the Ouija Shadow Kill, and you're invulnerable yourself. You can just use that and then go in for the turtle and be able to take that play. So this is going to be a little bit more of a challenge for both sides to pull this off, and that's when it's going to really boil down to the other heroes on the playing field to make the difference up, right? You have the Cho. He's going to be able to rotate around, try and find the single target pickup. It's going to be huge if they can find a way to get the jungler from Papara out of position. If you can get a way of the dragon off, even the slightest delay can be the difference. Or even taking down one of the backliners, right? Taking down that Zushin, who's going to be heavily dependent on that Lantern Flare and that Crimson Beacon AoE damage to zone out the side of SCG Esports inside of those turtle pits. And that's where the Cho is going to have a major impact. Now, the Lu Yi, right? We talked about the zone control that it can have, but there's a Hayabusa on the playing field, which means you got to be a little bit more careful and decisive on those real-world manipulations.
Yeah, really interesting here is I see the Claude get taken out by S2G Esports, and that would have been my counter for this back line, a marksman that through the mid and late game can use that battle mirror image to get to the back line, punish them here, but it's taken off the board, and instead we're going to kind of go, I think the answer that they're going to be looking for is going to come from this Hilda, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, the Hilda, again, I mean, hey, they used it up against BJK, and they said, hey, if it worked there, it'll work here as well. But I'm wondering if Papara was watching that match, right? I mean, definitely doing their homework, and they need to have a plan against it. We know the strategy, right? You run this Hilda, you run it in the XP lane, and you basically rotate around and try and delay the buff potential from the jungler from Papara. So I'm definitely going to be wanting to be a little bit more protective over the buffs, and I think they have a good answer for it, right? They have the Zushin with the Lantern Flares, which could be the difference maker right there. Final picks on the board for the side of Papara will be the Gatat and the Moskov.
See, and here I want to say you spoke about good answers for the side of Papara too. The Gatakacha is going to be a great early game ward for. We've seen it before used against the Khalid invading here. I'm assuming it's going to be there to try to ward off that Hilda at the beginning. He can just tank so much damage. You throw a Vengeance on him as well. He's going to be returning a lot of that damage back to you in the early game. So a great answer by Papara, and maybe we dipped into that Hilda well a little too often, but this is what I was thinking in the last game too. They had a struggle in the early game with that Hilda. I want to say within the opening 30 seconds, Hilda was down. They had already gotten killed, but it did not stop their plan. They continued on. All right, just continue on with the plan. Continue bringing that pressure with the Hilda. They continued it, and they were able to use it successfully to find themselves a victory.
And we're going to figure out which composition is better, especially in the early phases. It seems like who kind of dominates the early phase has more control of this game. So we'll have to see between both these amazing contenders. Interesting fact, neither side has faced each other the entire Open Finals. So this is going to be the first time these two actually get to face off. We got to see Papara trailblaze through the upper bracket. We got to see S2G Esports trailblaze through the bottom bracket, and now having a chance to face it off for a seat in the grand finals is what's on the line right now. So let us know what you guys think, how y'all feel about the draft, and whose team you're favoring, as whoever wins here will be going up against Fireflux Esports in the grand finals for the Open Finals of SPS Season 6 Turkey. Now, this is going to be a fun one, right? We got to see that Gatot locked in last second, okay? It's going to have the AOG. It's going to be able to get to the back line, and it's going to be a potential threat for this Eve. Now, I'm wondering if it's going to work out that way, though. I mean, you have a lot of isolation heroes, right? You have this Cho who can hit anybody with the way of the dragon on the opposing side, can even hit the Gatot. as soon as he jumps in. You have two junglers, both of them who are invulnerable when it comes to the retry plays, right? The Ouija Shadow Kill over there from the Hayabusa, and then you also have the Tips of Blades from the Ling. So it's not really, it's really, I guess it goes back to a 50-50 at that point, but it's really boiling down to the execution from both sides.
For me, it's going to kind of come down to like I don't really know what kind of backline dive we have. It's strange to say that with a Ling on the team, but when it comes to some of these objective fights, Ling's not really trying to get himself caught before the objective is ready. So we're still looking at somebody else is going to need to play that role, get to the back line to maybe be able to offset that. What I'm seeing on the side of S2G is they have a lot of push. Like they're going to have that Hilda that's going to be able to run in, hopefully try to scare out the back line so that they start at least running away. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this kind of catches on. You're absolutely correct. Getakacha with his ultimate, Avatar the Guardian, it can be a counter, especially for something that is as stationary as a real world manipulation from Eve, who has to sit there, lay down lay down her ultimate like that, and you're going to have an Avatar the Guardian coming for you. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this kind of plays out.
Yeah, and speaking of playing out, it's up to these two teams to make their statement in the lower bracket finals, as we are seeing Papara up against S2G, who will be able to take game one.
Man, I'm excited about this because, like I said, I just love to see the assassin meta in here. We do see a little bit of a help being taken for Kazue on this Ling. It's going to keep him just narrowly even with the Hayabusa as it comes to trying to get some of this farm, kind of keeping track before this first gank comes up.
Now, we are seeing the Beatrix picked up from Sigibum. He did a great job on that Harith earlier, and now going to be pulling out this Beatrix on top of that. A marksman who you don't see too often, but has a lot of versatility, a lot of different weapon types to pull from, right? You can snipe from afar, you can submachine gun at mid-range, or you can shotgun up close. It's really just dependent on you. But when it comes to the Moskov, right, that attack speed is going to be huge. The separation from those Spear of Destructions to traverse across the map for the neutral objectives and the split push is something that S2G is going to have to keep an eye on. Nexus running on this Hayabusa, which was a pocket pick for Kazue, forced to run on this Ling. Can that be something that works in Papara's favor, or is the Ling also another pocket pick for S2G?
Oh, you can already see that CC doing its work and really starting to put the boots to Lunar. Nexus does see him go into the bush, decides not to chase after him just yet. We saw in some of the emblems out there a lot of tenacity on the side of Papara, so they're looking for a little bit more survival on it, where the side of S2G Esports, I want to say there was just a lot more damage in those emblems. So it's honestly, they're both kind of counteracting each other here. So we move into the second minute, 5 seconds left on this first turtle.
Yeah, and right now still a stalemate, neither side having really an advantage over the other, and that's where this turtle is going to come into play. We kind of talked about both junglers having that invulnerability moment with the Ouija Shadow Kill and the Tips of Blades. Kazue just now hitting level 4 alongside Nexus, and you're already seeing some zonage control from both sides. There's that Lantern Flare as well, but who will be able to take this objective? I think this is really going to boil down to the synergy from both sides, and we're going to be able to see here momentarily who has a little bit more. Wait, the purple buff play, the denial may be on the way.
Oh, Kazue maybe bit off a little bit more than he could chew. Decided to try to go for that purple buff. But, I mean, honestly, great rotations, great sense of awareness coming out from Papara to see that their jungle's being taken. They're going to have those rotations there. Both teams kind of had the same thing in mind when it came to kind of laying the baits. Let this turtle kind of be played out here while they clean up their jungle.
Yeah, and right now they're definitely waiting for the other to make a mistake. A little bit of game of chess for the early phase of game number 1 for the lower bracket finals. But now the turtle at 25% HP.
Ooh, Tempest of Blades comes in just a little bit too late. Kazue comes in there. Lunar finds himself on the wrong side of damage coming from Sup there. And that's going to be a first kill and a turtle going to Papara.
Yeah, the Roamer able to pick up that kill. Able to shut down Lunar, and also Nexus able to get that quick retribution off, a little bit of that late Tempest of Blades. Like you mentioned, the displacement.
Ooh, Pagu down. That is already this composition working wonders. We were talking about this guy to catch, especially in the early game, really able to offset the Hilda, the income from Pagu as well. And then you're talking about After Dark on this Zuxin, doing such a great job zoning out the rest of the line, really punishing them when they come in looking for those invades.
It's like, man, I need a Zushin next time I try and play a little arcade machine to win a prize. You know, you get the little claw and you try and that's exactly what Zushin's doing right there with that lantern flare, right? It's just grabbing somebody and setting them up for the team to be able to find a kill, and a good play from After Dark so far. Corrosion Scythe picked up over there by RX on this Moskov as well, which is going to allow him to deal some additional slow to the opponent he kind of latches onto, which would be Sigibum at this moment right now. But a 2-0 lead for Papara, now up by 1,000 gold. Ooh, wait a second.
Oh, we saw the real world manipulation come out. Tempest of Blades is down. They're going to go ahead and try to punish Sup. And this is unfortunate too, because After Dark was able to flicker out. So it didn't really need the help. Maybe a little bit of a miscommunication from the team, because Sup went in there looking for the assist to try to help out and try to create that escape for his teammate. But his teammate was already out, and that put him in a bad way. That's going to be a kill for the side of S2G.
Yeah, their first kill on the board is going to go over to Kazue, and Mohi needing to be careful, or he may be next. Turtle now in play. STG Esports will be able to zone out Papara, but they're still going to put up a contest.
Oh, look at Lunar here, just latching on. Another Way of the Dragon lands onto Hayabusa. Kazue is able to find himself the turtle there. Ooh, Shadow Kill is out, but then taken down. Kazue finds the kill onto him. That is going to go ahead and tie up this game.
But a good trade for the side of Papara, right? Bot side, RX is able to take the tier 3 turret, which is still going to keep it a little bit more even. S2G, though, off to a good start. 2 kills for Kazue, and now the pressure on the top side.
Oh, and this is unfortunate. Avatar the Guardian comes out, and the damage is waiting for him. He is in a bad way here. Sigibum finds the damage, is going to be able to take him down, and the lead for kills now stretching into S2G Esports. You can see After Dark trying the best that they can to kind of zone out the rest of the enemy.
All right, now the map is even for both sides, and a slight gold lead for the side of S2G. Sigibum did find a kill as well, which is going to put him a little bit more ahead of RX. But RX actually did strip down a whole turret by himself, so you could definitely keep him in this game. Right now, I'd say both sides are pretty even. It's not really in control for one side over the other. It's a little bit of that stalemate, and this is where it's going to boil down to who makes that mistake first. I mean, you already seen the invasion onto Nexus, very low in HP, and S2G Esports trying to put on some pressure, but look at the top side. Nobody there to deny RX from taking the turret.
And this is so clean coming from a Moskov. That just shows that they know what they're doing. They know what their job is, and they're executing it so quickly. Moskov takes down the first tower down at the bottom, immediately goes to the next one on the opposite side of the map, takes down that tower like clockwork. And S2G Esports is going to need to be very careful about this, because I mean, we already talked about how lethal a Moskov can be towards the mid and late game. But if you're not answering him, if you're not able to kind of reply in kind, he's going to hit that power spike quickly. He's going to get those 3 items that he needs, and he's going to become a menace for your team even earlier.
And speaking of menaces, look at the lantern flare. Look at the displacement from After Dark. This is exactly why Zushin is usually banned out. I mean, it's like a one-man army in the mid lane. I mean, it's just look at that front lining and zoning out the entire team of S2G from the turtle. Nobody even there with After Dark. And that's just some amazing zonage control, as we are going to start seeing Papara join the fight.
Oh, we do have a little bit of engagement up there. Is going to take down Mohi. Lunar locks on to After Dark. Oh, but pays for it. Is going to be the Lantern Flare just doing its work, creating that CC, and that created the opportunity for the side of S2G Esports to try to answer back. They were able to find themselves a little bit of a kill. Now starting on this Lord. Papara looking for an opportunity to go in there. After Dark, you could see already. Oh, a big sniper shot. Does chunk down After Dark, but was able to take an entire combination from Lunar. That's going to be that Clock of Destiny. That's going to be the tankiness there, but it does allow Kazue to get this Lord unassisted.
And now going to push in for the mid lane as well. AOG dropping down, but not going to be able to take the turret. A good defense from Papara to not allow even more into the side of STG. But there is a Lord on the top side to work in their favor. And now the defense will have to be played from the side of Papara to stop this Lord from opening up the advantage for STG to take some of these turrets off the map.
Yeah, Real World Manipulation has dropped down after dark, doing a great job zoning out. And I want to say Papara starting to get a little frustrated with Lunar, just always there, always on their sides, always getting vision, always like a nuisance, even trying to refuse jungle for them. You see S2G now looking for the flanks. They're going to go ahead, cut this lane, allow them to get one tower down at the bottom, while the rest of Papara has to answer the Lord at top.
That was a good defense from Papara. I mean, they put 3 members in the mid lane, right? They said, we know we're going to lose the bot side, but we'd much rather lose the tier 3 turret on the bottom than the tier 3 turret in the mid. And now the counter on the way is Nexus will find Pagu.
Yeah, Nexus doing a great job there, is able to find himself a kill. I mean, the gold, a slight 2K lead for the side of S2G Esports. They had that Lord, so they're now pushed in a little bit more. But where it really counts, where it really starts to open up the map is those mid towers. And Papara and S2G Esports have placed that on a priority. You see that they're not really allowing that to be pushed in, because as that happens, that's going to open up the entire map. That's going to mean both teams have a little less distance that they can run away or be backed up from.
Yeah, but you got to keep an eye on Causeway, right? He's running on this link. He has the split push capability to make the difference. But right now, it's going to be a tug of war in the mid lane for this tier 3 turret play. Who will be able to be victorious?
Real World Manipulation is out. Tempest the Blades into the back line. Pagu does find himself away of the dragon, but gets pushed away with a spear from the Moskov. So they aren't able to get the kills out there, but they were able to push back Papara enough to start claiming that very important mid tower.
And that's going to allow SCG to have a little bit more comfortability invading into the jungle of Papara with little to no problem. Especially losing that mid turret is going to force them past those tier 2 turrets for the defense on the side of Papara. But now they're playing the way for the top side.
Yeah, you can see there, they do find themselves a kill on to the Gatakacha. Is that going to be enough? It's not. I mean, they find themselves a kill, but are still not able to create that pressure just yet. Papara, they need to find an answer very soon, because this game is quickly starting to slip out of their hands. I mean, the Hilda, man, on paper, and I mean, when it comes to the meta, is not really one of the picks that you usually expect to see here, but S2G just doing such a great job with it. You can see the split push priority up there. So now she's able to push that bush while the rest of your team is starting to engage here. Now they've locked on. Nexus in trouble, gets taken down by Siggy Bomb. That's going to be a retribution down for Papara. Do they decide to take this? They need to go for a team fight, because they can't 50-50 this Lord.
And Causeway still has the Tempest of Blades on top of that, so that is going to be a free Lord over to S2G. Not really sure if they should punish from here, right? I mean, they got what they came for. They should just pretty much wait for this Lord to spawn in before trying to go for the remaining tier 2 turrets. It's a 4K gold lead right now for S2G Esports. Full domination so far within the last 3 minutes. Sigibum on this Beatrix. Not a marksman we traditionally see too often, but definitely rises to the occasion when slotted. Highest kills in the game. So you are seeing the XP graph. Speaking of XP!
Oh, Lunar gets caught there. They're trying to punish. I mean, it's just so hard. All these different angles that S2G Esports is finding. Ooh, goes in with the quad shadow and the shadow kill. It is not enough to take him down, but it is enough to back up S2G Esports just slightly. Ooh, Causeway going in after dark. We do have the Tempest of Blades going back up into the Finch post. Man, they are just trying their best here, but you see the answers coming out. Quad shadows coming out from Nexus, not able to find a mark, and that's going to be another mid-tower, tier 2 this time, taken down for S2G Esports. Papara on their back foot. You can see Mohi in trouble. Avatar the Guardian takes him in the deep lines, does not catch anybody, but does back up S2G Esports. You can see all of them at about 50% or less health there, but unable to answer is Papara.
Yeah, and Siggy Bum on fire, locking on with these snipes, dealing massive damage and forcing Papara to fight from a little bit further, which is giving them a little bit of a harder time. It's now over a 5,000 gold lead in their favor. I mean, just Siggy Bum, just looking at the items he has. He just picked up the Windtalker, Malefic Roar, Hunter Strike, and also the Blade of Despair. A lot of physical damage to work in his favor and some insurance if he does get rushed by Nexus with the Ouija Shadow Kill. Just proc that Windtalker, and he should be good to go for a possible counterplay and a punish. Now, right now, S2G is in the lead, and hold on, wait a second.
Yeah, great way of the Dragon does find Nexus. They've been doing so great being able to find him, especially before some of these objectives. Oh, finally an Avatar of the Guardian does land onto 2 members. Tempest Blades is out, does find a kill. Siggy Bum picking up a kill there as well. Lunar looking for an escape, gets jumped up there, and the damage onto Mohi. He has to back off. You can see a 3 and 8 right now for S2G Esports with a commanding 6K gold lead.
And Siggy Bum, we got to see the team fight graph on the bottom, just always in the heart of the battle alongside his teammates, and now going in to open up the base for Papara.
Ooh, a big pop up there with a Way of the Dragon, knocks Mohi back into S2G Esports teammates, and that is going to be 1 down. We have a shadow kill. Is it going to be enough to take down Kazue? It is not. He uses that Finch pose, gets out of dodge, but the rest of the team uses that to back up. Kazue now still continuing to put the pressure on to this jungle. They're going to go ahead and start on the Lord.
No Luigi Shadow Kill for Nexus as well, so they only got to watch out for the Quad Shadow Retribution contestant.
You can see here right now, Lunar actually, Nexus being very patient on the backside, but S2G Esports, they know it. They know that they have the threat of the Hayabusa to come in, so they're just kind of baiting out this Lord. They want the fight here. They have such a commanding lead. Why not take the fight? And you can see, oh, comes in from the side. He looked for the shadow kill onto them, is not able to find it. Great grouping by the side of S2G Esports. Actually, I want to say he got a single kill, but 2 down for his team.
It's funny because Kazue takes down After Dark. He finds the mage for Papara, but Nexus finds the mage for S2G, takes down Begin. Both of them using their ultimates, the Ouija Shadow Kill and the Tempest of Blades, to do so. But the Lord is still intact, and with 2 members down from the side of Papara, S2G does have the favor, and it looks like they are going to go in for this. They have wave management on top of that as well. Off to a great way to take control of the late game. Now crossing that 16-minute threshold, 5,000, almost a 6K gold lead in SUG's favor. And you're seeing some of these late game insurance items being picked up as well. Pagu now picking up that immortality, right? He's going to go in for a Way of the Dragon setup and then have some insurance on his way out if he does get bursted down from RX on this Moskov, or even After Dark with the displacement plays from that Lantern Flare. So you are looking at the base bursted open for Papara. Or no, actually not yet. They're still holding on to all 3 inhibitor turrets. They do have a little bit of insurance. There goes that Winter Crown picked up from Begin as well. So they're possibly going to be going in for a game-ending play, as we are going to be seeing this Luminous Lord make its way on the top side, officially past a 7K gold lead in S2G's favor, and a way to end this game. But can Papara hold the defense necessary to stop them?
Well, and then this kind of throws it out there. Then who's your shadow kill going on to? It can't go on to Begin because he's got that Winter Crown. Siggy Bum is going to be about the only target. We do have, he's going to go in Nexus with the shadow kill on to Kazu. Just what I was asking, who the target's going to be for that. He does find the enemy jungler, latches on. There is not enough Finch poses for him to run away from that shadow kill. Gets taken down, and this is going to be a setup for a great defense for Papara. They do lose all of their high grounds, though.
Nexus has bought Papara some time, found exactly who he needed to stop them from that push. With Kazue off the playing field, they don't have the numbers to push through, even with the Luminous Lord, but they did gain something from that, right? They took all of the inhibitor turrets standing for the side of Papara, but Papara, knowing they have the numbers, they're going to go in and try and open this map through the mid lane. Down goes the tier 3 turret, maybe some more in climbing, but their time is short, right? You just seen Kazue spawn back in, so now they have to kind of play a little bit safer, and they want to start putting pressure on these side lanes as wave management is still working in S2G's favor.
Right now, a little bit of damage coming out there. Lunar still being that offensive nightmare for the side of Papara. He's getting the vision he needs. He's staying in the front line, trying to bait out some of the abilities. And just like that, Nexus kind of still on the back foot. He's having some great plays. This is what we were seeing from S2G Esports in some of the last games, where they're able to kind of turn around even at the end, what seems like the end of some matches. When it comes to those final pushes, S2G Esports just doing such a great job of returning the favor. But here, Papara seems to have answers of their own into the late game. Some of those power spikes that S2G just was not expecting, and having a little bit of difficulty closing this one out.
At least they don't have to worry too much about a backdoor play. I mean, I feel like the only one who could do it is really Lunar or Kazue. The Beatrix just not mobile enough. Good thing the Moskov is not on S2G Esports side, or this would have been a very scary situation. But Papara, they're still going to kind of play like they're ahead even when they're behind. They realize they can't afford for this lore to go to S2G side, especially not having any inhibitors, any defense standing. They want to go ahead and try and force their hand and look for a mistake. They want to contest this lord and hopefully turn this back around in their favor to be able to open up the map and possibly take this game. As we're close to that 20-minute mark, you're going to see the Blade of Heptases picked up from Nexus as well on both sides, ready to take the fight in the Lord Pit.
Ooh, you saw Pagu try to go in with for the Way of the Dragon, does not get it, gets lifted up on his way. Now baiting out the Lord is S2G Esports. They all back up. They're looking for a fight. Sup might actually give that to them. Oh. All right, with that, gotta catch it. We have the Shadow Kill comes out. That means that you're not going to have the Shadow Kill for the rest of this fight. The rest of S2G, they know this. They're going to go ahead, start on this. After Dark gets taken out. That's going to set up this next Lord at 50% right now. Avatar, the Guardian, misses just wide. He gets bursted down. Immortality has been proc. Kazue still gets the Lord. The rest of the team turning tail. Look at the split push. Is it going to be enough? It's not answered. The team is able to get the Lord and return to base quickly enough to answer it.
Yeah, but now he has to get out of there, and it's not looking promising. Begin. We'll find RX, but a good play at the split push. We talked about the Moskov and the capability that he provides, but now you have 3 members down and 4 members on the push with the Luminous Lord and Lunar. We'll find Nexus.
Yeah, this might be a wrap for Papara. Only Mohi left to defend alone to tell the story of what happened to his teammates. Lord marching through mid, a couple of CC. He does use that Primal Wrath, but Lunar is there chunking away at the base. That's going to be game 1 going over to S2G Esports.
Oh, man, I thought we were about to see a backdoor play for a second. Everybody at the edge of their seats. RX almost pulled it off, but a great defense from Lunar last second to go back and contest it. Now, that was a spicy game. That went past the 20-minute mark, and that was only game number 1 of the lower bracket finals. S2G Esports able to push on forward, though, with a possibility to set the side of Papara with match point, as they did just claim game number 1. There was a lot that went right in this game, way more than what went wrong for both sides. The Hilda pick caught us off guard. We got to see it up against BJK, but it was profitable, and it definitely worked out inside of S2G's favor. And again, we get to see it work out here up against a totally different team, Papara. Is this something that's worth possibly banning out when you're going up against it, knowing that the win rate on it is still currently 100%?
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is how great of a success. And maybe it's not worth the ban out there, but if it's not worth the ban, that it is worth a little bit of an adjustment, possibly maybe looking into some of those fighters who can last a little bit longer, who don't have to be afraid of the Hilda in some of those opening minutes, that she is so lethal, especially against some of these assassins. Maybe we're looking at possibly an alpha pickup. Maybe we can get a Julian in there, something that that can match the early game tenacity that a Hilda brings for the enemy team.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, we don't even see the traditional XP laners in here, right? I mean, this is a Hilda XP laner. We don't see the Phobias coming out. It's not been banned. I don't even know if the Khalid was banned in this game. So there's a lot of questions that we need to find some answers to. But before we get to that, we're going to go on a short break. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.
The Snapdragon Pro Series is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Monster Energy, and DHL.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Private Dancer here, and Steph Wheezy at your service for another Snapdragon series here, going into game 2 of these exciting teams.
Yeah, game number 2 definitely was an exciting series so far with game number 1. S2G able to take game 1 with a pretty decisive victory. Now, here's a good response, though. I heard that reaction because we don't see it too often, and when it's picked up, it punishes. Suyu locked in for papara.
Yeah, very interesting that S2G kind of let that slide. This is what I was talking about with the last one. I was talking about possible answers to the early aggression, to Hilda, like invading into your jungle. You pick up something a little heavier than an assassin. I was going for an alpha, for a Julian. I didn't really expect Suyu to be left open, but yeah, he's the perfect mix of all of that. A lot of his abilities, he's kind of come onto the scene. If you kind of hold some of those abilities, it kind of creates a lot of defense for him. He gets a lot of shielding for it, and he can really kind of mix it up with a lot of the tanks and kind of really hold a lot of those objectives too. Just a completely different play style that we see when it comes to assassin play.
And it's been banned out, you know, definitely for good reason. But I feel like maybe S2G has a plan for it since they allowed it to walk. I mean, they go in for the Chip, Zushin, and the Mathilda ban instead. Now, some of the picks on the board. We are going to see that Cho picked up again. It's been heavily prioed and favored. The Valentina for some draft pressure. But right now, I would say not really the best selection of ultimates for a Valentina to grab. But it still can put that pressure on throughout the entirety of the draft. The Natan picked up. We get to see a little bit of the ADC showcased in the first half of the draft for Papara.
Yeah, that is interesting too, that you bring up the ultimate. It's not really the greatest selection for them to go against. Papara doing a great job of kind of mixing up when it comes to their draft, not really allowing something that will kind of be answered by the IMU ultimate from Valentina here. The big thing is going to be how well this Cho kind of works into here too, and what he can kind of go off of. Are you going to be able to get onto the Natan to be able to burst him down? He's still got the entropy that he can use to get himself out of harm's way if he's got a purify. So potentially you might be latching on, I want to say you might be able to turn it around on a team there. So it's going to be very interesting when it comes to this target priority for the side of S2G.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, the Edith for Papara, I mean, it still can be in the roam position. It can be in the XP. Time will tell. I think it works great in both. No, we haven't seen the Khalid banned out so far. I wonder if this is going to be the first time we actually see it slotted. The Phoveus has just been forgotten about in Turkey, man. It's just, it doesn't even exist across the waters from North America. Look, every time Phoveus is available in NA, it's picked up 90% of the time. But here, it's not even, it's just non-existent. And it's just kind of crazy and mind-boggling for me to be able to watch. But there goes the Assassin Prio, though, the Ling. Picked up again, this time from the side of S2G Esports. They had it in game number 1 as well. And it was paired up against the Hayabusa, who was slotted in for Papara. Hayabusa was still available. It wasn't picked up from S2G Esports, which is interesting considering how deadly Kazue is on that pocket pick for himself. So we'll see how this kind of plays off. Right now, crowd control is in both sides, right? You have the Entropy, who has a little bit of that knockback. You have the Earth Shatter from this Edith as well, and the Suyu with the additional combos that he can bring to his kit. But for the side of S2G Esports, the way the Dragon, that's what's been kind of the story for today, right? Getting to the back line, getting the isolation play, getting the way the Dragon set up, and then your teammate making the most out of that alley-oop for a potential setup on a kill.
Yeah, the only thing we're kind of missing is that early game aggression. Maybe having the Suyu on Papara's team is enough to kind of ward it away from S2G Esports. Maybe they're not going to be going for that, because you talked about it. Khalid still an option. They haven't picked it up. He has that great early game. He can invade. He can even keep his sustain that he has is pretty much unmatched by a lot of teams. Other things too as well that potentially could be picked up. I mean, we used to see Jawhead Jawhead as like a great answer to the Lings. He's able to lock on, use that ejector to kind of get him off of the walls too, and then the unstoppable force that locks onto him, even if he does use that Finch pose to try to get away. Instead, we're kind of turning it around. We're going with the opposite of that. We got the guy to catch us, so we're going to have some early game defense here for S2G.
You know, I didn't even think about the Jawhead, and you make an excellent point on that. I mean, we got to see it, at least in the NA side of things, how much of a lethal weapon it can be, and I feel like it is often overlooked and something that a lot of these teams in the Turkey region may want to try out, because it definitely will have some teams shaking their heads and going back to the drawing board. But with the Katat, it has a way to get to the back line. Now, I don't really know how effective it'll be in this draft. I mean, there's some great answers over there from Papara, right? You have the Edith. You have this Natan, who already has a little bit of mobility, some separation for when a hero like Katat wants to rush in with the AOG. You have a Cece, who's very hard to catch. It's like trying to catch a fly with your hands. It just doesn't work, right? I mean, some of the greats can do it, especially the mechanically gifted, but not something that I would take lightly. So that's the full composition for Papara locked in. You are going to have that Vexana to finalize the draft, the Eternal Guardian to be able to drop down for some great front lining, and also additional crowd control to work in their favor. And now the drafts are finalized. How we feeling?
The interesting thing for me is having this avatar, the Guardian. I mean, it's not like an immediate ultimate. He really kind of I don't even know what the heck you call it. It's a, like, you see it, you've got about 5 seconds. Everybody's like, all right, let me just get out of this thing for a little bit, wander out. So he's got some time. There's not enough real CC that I see that can set that up right now. Maybe if you get a fear in there from the Valentina, maybe if you use it in conjunction with a Way of the Dragon kick too as well. But in the midst of it, you've got a very mobile team that you're going up against here. So it's going to be very tricky to really land that. We saw in the last game, Avatar the Guardian was actually working against him. He would go out there, throw it down, and then he's just surrounded by the entire team. And you're like, oh, well, excuse me, guys. I'm just going to try to squeeze through to get back home there. So, but if anybody can do it, it's going to be S2G Esports, because they've been very successful with a lot of the compositions that they've been using today.
Well, they do have Cho to be able to lean in on, where the Katat may fall short. The Cho may be the difference, but it is a single target CC. So we're going to have to see as we are jumping into game number 2 of the lower bracket finals. Papara up against S2G Esports. S2G sitting at match point.
Man, this is a big thing that we were talking about before about Suyu. Why the fighters have been so prioritized is because of how fast he's able to clear his jungle, and just he's already on to his purple buffs, while Kazue is just starting on his second up at the top. So it's going to be very interesting to see, especially when it comes to the timing for some of these ganks.
Yeah, you're going to have to lean in on that vulnerability from the tips of blades from Kazue to be very effective on this Ling. I feel like both sides have some great answers for this first turtle engagement. I'm excited to see which way it goes, but look at the bot side on the 1v1.
Oh, and that is just what Kazue was looking for. A marksman with 10% health, or with 10% health. Yes, please. He's just going to go ahead, dive in there. Doesn't even need his ultimate. Cleans that up very quickly. S2G Esports just so quick on the draw, and that's a map. I want to say the communication for them on the map to let them know, hey, this guy's low. Come on in. Clean up job.
Hey, that's a check I'll cash any day. And Kazue, like you said, had the biggest smile as he saw that 10% HP on the bot side. And he needs every advantage he can get, especially going up against Suyu, right? I mean, you see it. We know how much of a threat it can be. And finding an ADC, that's probably the most valuable member he could have possibly shut down before this first turtle spawning in. Now the turtle spawned in, though, raises the question, who will be able to take this first objective? Was the Suyu play something that Papara will use to turn this around and even out the series, or did S2G have a plan against it all along?
Oh, you see they're going to go ahead and use that Primal Wrath. A little bit of CC lands on a begin, and he gets toasted down. Mohi picking up the kill there. That's going to set up this first turtle for them. Kazue still, I mean, we were talking about a Ling here. He actually is not bothered by a turtle. He's immediately looking for the buffs, immediately trying to kind of get that farm up, since he knows he's not going to be able to win this fight at turtle.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because he already took that kill on the bot side, right? He found RX, so he was not too worried about it. He's like, I already kind of technically got a little bit of a trade. But does that scale evenly with losing this turtle? I mean, we'll have to see, right? You're putting a lot of farm and XP into the hands of the other side with that walking. Hoss Claws picked up by Siggy Bum for some sustainability on the bot side as well. Right now, it's 1-1 on the scoreboard. Neither side able to find a dent, but wait a second.
Ooh, you see there, another kill coming out for Papara. I want to say, too, big pop-up lands, but a nice little escape there from Begin. The big thing for me right now is, especially when you have a Suyu has a so great of an early game. He doesn't even have an ultimate. Once you get that level 3, you basically are full. You are at the power spike that you need for a Suyu. Maybe that's what Kazue knows right now. He's not trying to fight that in the early game. He's going to wait until he gets his items, until the Ling can start coming online. Maybe get that Berserker's Fury, something to help him when it comes to some of these fights, because you don't want to put your team in a bad way.
Yeah, RX finding Siggy Bum on the 2v1. Actually, it was a 2v2. Pagu was almost next, almost falling like a pair of dominoes down on the bot side, needing to go back to safety.
Yeah, so they've tied it up here in about a 400 gold game here. You see the damage, a little bit of that gold coming off. Ooh, coming in there, has the Tempest of Blades, catches RX again. Boy, he has his number. He is just watching that map for RX. Every single time RX gets low, he is right there to capitalize.
That's a little rough, too. I mean, finding him on the bot side is going to be a little bit of a challenge, especially with him being that mid to late game ADC that the team's going to lean in on. He's going to be more of that late game ADC now. You are seeing the turtle spawn in, though. SCG wasting no time on this objective.
Yeah, they're going to go ahead and start things off here. Begin was actually able to get some damage. Pagu looking for an opportunity, looking for an angle to get here into this. Kazue doing a great job. Look at his angle right now. Avatar the Guardian is out. 2 members get popped up. Kazue able to find the turtle, and now we have chaos at the turtle pit there. Pagu taking very low, is able to get away. Tempest of Blades is out. He's not able to find the mark. Looking for Papara, looking for that Edith, but was not able to get it. Luckily, both teams leave without taking a single death.
Yeah, but a turtle now for both sides to even out the playing field. We're still holding on to all the turrets, but one will drop on the top side, as you are seeing a great push from Papara. Nexus and Mohi doing a great job on proxying these minions, which is going to give them a slight lead. And that's major considering that RX, right, he's already fallen twice on the bot side, a little bit of a struggle. So I wonder if they're going to flex RX over to the top side and just allow Mohi to be the one to push on the objective for the bot. But right now, Papara is in control of this game, not by a mile, but just by a matter of steps. But we know that can be the difference.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's we're starting to see the momentum kind of shifting here. I mean, when I say I want to say S2G, oh, big pop up there, lands onto 2 of them, but their towers are pushed in, so they're starting to lose a little bit of ground. But I want to say this isn't unexpected. We know that there's a great power spike for Papara in the early game. Suyu really kind of pops off in that early bit. But how long do you wait? What kind of power spikes are you waiting for your team before we're able to start taking these fights, before we're able to kind of start answering back? You can see here, Pagu in there trying to hold his ground there. Avatar the Guardian, and a Tempest of Blades comes down, does find a kill onto the Edith. Pagu goes in, finds a way of the dragon, and down goes Nexus. Pagu follows close behind.
Mohi may be next. Siggy Bum able to draw that kill as well. A 3-for-1 trade in SGG's favor. I mean, did you see it was like 3 members up against Nexus? I was like, how many heroes does it take to shut down the Suyo? Apparently 3, and that was a very close call even at that. But now with him falling, with 3 members falling, SGG has found their footing, able to take this turtle on their side and increasing the kill lead 6-3 and almost an 1,000 gold lead in their favor. And now the engagement in the jungle.
Oh, yeah, big pop-up does land there. Are able to take down the Edith. Kazue doing a great job on this. Ling gonna dash himself way to safety. Nexus gonna have to find himself an escape from his jungle there as well. Lead and death starting to pile up for S2G Esports.
Yeah, I mean, That snowball is starting to roll. Not fast, but it's definitely there, and papara needs to find a way to divert it away from knocking them down. I mean, they're facing match point right now, right? This game, if SCG pushes through, will move them on forward into the grand finals. Papara, they need this one to even out this series. You are looking at SCG, though. They did lose their turret on the top side. They traded for the tier 3 on the bot side, so both sides are equal on the map. But in terms of the engagements, that's where you're seeing SCG have the advantage.
Yeah, and they're really kind of, I mean, this is what they were doing. They were just being patient. They were waiting. Suyu has that little power spike in the early. They needed to get some of those items onto Kazue so that he can start being a menace, and now they're starting to punish them. You're seeing those Way of the Dragons. They're able to come in, start to isolate people. They are being answered back just a little bit, though. You saw Pagu is getting killed. Concealed play on the way. Pagu sees it, comes in, finds himself a pop-up there. They are trying to put a little bit of a taunt there on the Edith, who gets chunked down. Siggy Bum with the kill there. Eternal Guardian is out. Look at Kazue. He is hunting for that marksman. RX cannot find an escape. Up at the top, gets taken down. That's 2 more kills for the side of S2G Esports.
A catastrophe, a full landslide working in S2G's favor, finding 3 members of Papara, and now gonna be able to take these turrets to let the map bleed red for S2G. You are looking at 700 gold difference between the ADCs.
And just like that, a little bit of a chaos there. Edith goes in again and is taken down by the entire team. Nexus in trouble. Way of the Dragon gonna shut him down. That is another kill for the side of S2G, bringing them to a 4-13 lead right now.
Yeah, 1-for-3 trade as well. Only losing their roamer in the process. Again, a trade they would take any day. A check they would cash all the way to the bank at any given moment. And now, with that advantage, with that miscalculated step from Papara, S2G Esports will take this Lord. They're going to be able to push into these tier 2 turrets now, and that's going to be a major threat for the side of Papara. Now forced on the defense, already down by almost 5,000 gold. And keep in mind, about like 2 minutes ago, this was a 1K gold lead. We're now at a 5K gold lead. This is not a snowball. This is starting to turn into an avalanche. And SCG, they're trying to keep this pressure rolling to get a quick finish and earn their spot into the grand finals. It's up to Papara to turn this game around.
Yeah, and there has to, I mean, that last, I want to say, invade into the purple buff, Papara, there's sometimes you just need to kind of cut your losses, not go in there. They kind of trickled in there one by one and then gave S2G Esports even more kills. Oh, and you can see here a couple of missed abilities there, missed setups right now, even with what S2G is kind of offering them. Now they're going to go ahead, force their way coverage on all of the lanes. You can see Lord at the bot. Oh, at the top of Entropy just narrowly gets them out of the way there. But look at the damage, the force coming on from S2G Esports. All 4 members stacking against, trying to put the damage onto this tower. Eternal Guardian is down and on the back line. S2G Esports going to back up. We are left to only high grounds for the side of Papara.
I was going to say, they already got the icing on the cake, taking the tier 2 turrets, but it looked like they were trying to throw some sprinkles on top of that as well by trying to take an inhibitor, but not going to be able to do that, especially without having the minions at their disposal. But this is pretty much checkmate for S2G to try and get an early finish.
Yeah, and Edith just getting chunked down right now by Siggy Bum. There's just no way right now. Their tanky front line is not doing enough to stop. They need to find a mistake coming from S2G Esports at this point, and right now they're doing a great job of kind of sticking together, rotating, clearing out the jungle. They only are able to get these little minions that are crossing the line through some of the lanes, and now you can start seeing them. They're not even getting the minions anymore because they're starting to freeze lanes. They want to completely freeze out Papara.
Yeah, Windtalker picked up some additional attack speed. The Berserker's Fury on top of that for Siggy Bum with a lot of damage on his side, a lot of pressure for Papara to have to watch out for. It's about almost a 7K gold lead for SCG Esports. We're now 12 minutes in, officially trickling into that late game and or mid game, but really I would say late game for SCG with how much of a lead they have so far up against papara, who's now forced, again, with their backs on the wall and inhibitors only standing at 3-legged table, which can quickly be knocked down if not careful. And you see the comfortability from SUG Esports. You see how decisive they are on rotating as a unit, right? You see that quad group up right there and just leaving Kazue by himself on his lonesome to be able to rotate with the mobility of the Ling, and the rest of the team just sticking together, not creating that window of opportunity for papara to punish.
Well, and then here's the thing too, is you have a Nexus at the bottom. The rest of the team is at the top. So it almost seems like they aren't on the same page for what they want to do. Do they want to clear lanes? Do they want to push somewhere off to the side? Or do they want to contest this Lord? Because I want to say Nexus kind of just sitting down there doing nothing is not helping out the team.
Yeah, now with this Lord uncontested, SUG is now going to work on trying to push into the base and possibly go in for a game winner. Now, they do have the power of Suyo. Interesting enough, Nexus yet to pick up a kill on this Suyo as well. So we asked the question. I mean, they allowed it to walk. It was prioritized first. Papara had first pick in the draft. But it seems like STG, like we raised the question, had an answer all along. And now, just needing to dot that I and cross that T, as you are going to see this Lord marching on the top side and minions quickly being synced for a final push through the base of papara.
Yeah, maybe we needed something a little bit heavier, a Tigreal possibly in your front line that could help set up and get you some of that damage. It was a wasted early game for papara in my eyes with how this Suyu can be used right now. All that S2G had to do was wait out the storm, and they were I want to say having a lot of success now. Now, 2 high grounds down. Avatar the Guardian comes out, finds 2 members. Eternal Guardian is out as well. Siggy Bum makes short work of the Edith, but After Dark able to answer back very quickly. Tempest Blades is out with the Winter Crown coming out. RX finds a kill, a little bit of vengeance there for all of those deaths he took to Kazooie.
Yeah, I mean, it just showcases even when the odds are not in their favor, it's still a very hard composition to kind of push through and take everything with a fast finish. And now SUG will have to push back a little bit. Papara has bought themselves a little bit of time, but not for long, right? I mean, they're definitely going to have to, at this point, pretty much play like they're ahead even when they're behind. They're going to have to go in for this contest on this Lord or a possible split push play. There's a lot of insurance on the side of SUG. They only have lost 1 turret this entire game. Not to mention, you're starting to see Sigibum hit like a truck. He's 4-1-4, right behind Kazue with the highest kills in the game on this Ling. And, you know, we asked the question. They left the Hayabusa. They decided to go for the Ling instead. And I think maybe that was the response to knowing that there's a Suyu on the playing field. Maybe they were just more comfortable with the mobility of the Ling and the Tempest of Blades to be more of a defense maneuver to kind of counteract the aggressive playstyle from a jungler like the CU that can rush in and punish. And now, papara, they may have to take the fight for their life, risk it all for the biscuit in the mid lane against S2G. One misstep could be the difference in who claims this game. Will it be S2G moving on to the grand finals, or will it be papara taking us to game number 3?
Yeah, right now, both teams. Oh, we do have the Primal Wrath coming out a little early. That means you're not going to have it for this team fight. Eternal Guardian is out in the back way, kind of chunking away at Lunar. You see the rest of Papara trying to do their best. They're looking to try to bait out this Lord. S2G Esports looking for a fight of their own. They know that the mage has to answer at the bottom, so they're going to go in here. Avatar the Guardian lands on 2 members. Sigibum finds a kill onto Mohi. The rest of S2G Esports are looking for the kill. Nexus is surrounded and finally taken down. That's going to be a free Lord for S2G Esports. They're actually possibly looking to go ahead and clean this up quickly.
Yeah, no point. After Dark, all by his lonesome.
Is not going to be able to protect it. The Winter Crown is out, but it's not going to save himself a core. That's going to be a clean sweep for S2G Esports.
One small step for S2G, but a major victory to gain a spot into the grand finals. An amazing 2-0 performance to shut down Papara. Able to get the job done, even the power of Isuyu not able to waver their determination.
Yeah, I mean, we can take a look here. I mean, right from the beginning, they were doing a great job of kind of waiting. I think this is kind of like more mid-game. You see the six-minute mark there. They waited for about 6 minutes to kind of let Suyu do his thing, let him kind of get confidence, wait for some of those power spikes to kind of die down before they were able to turn this around. I wouldn't say, I mean, the draft didn't look awful for the side, it didn't really look bad, but S2G Esports just knew exactly what they needed to do and what kind of timing they were looking at to really kind of throw a wrench into their opponent's yard.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like they were in control that entire game. Like they had the full playbook and they executed. Even here at this last push, the bait, forcing the hand of papara into the Lord Pit, knowing that it was already a 5K deficit, and then getting almost a full wipeout, leaving After Dark all by himself, just full domination entirely, and not really much you can do when you have a full team that late in the game and going toward that base crystal. And hey, there you have it. S2G Esports able to claw their way through the lower brackets, shuts down papara, knocks them out of the Open Finals, and earns their spot into the Grand Finals to go up against Fireflex Esports.
Yeah, not just that, but some very decisive victories here in the lower bracket for S2G Esports. So, I mean, it did a great job, but I want to say their biggest challenge awaits them.
And we're going to figure out who will earn that crown. But before we do, we're going to go on a short break. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen.
The Snapdragon Pro Series is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Monster Energy, and DHL.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for continuing on this journey with us, but we have made our way through the lower brackets and finally going to have that fated meetup between S2G Esports and Fireflux.
That's right, S2G having to pave their way through the lower bracket to make it here. Able to take down Papara at the last second with a 2-0 sweep finish, and Fireflux, who pretty much scathed their way through the top bracket, the upper bracket, and undefeated on top of that. Now it's going to be the match we've all been waiting for. DC, who will be grand champion for the Open Finals before we bid our ways until the challenge season?
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting game here. Fireflux, we've seen a lot about them. They've been doing such a great job, able to hold their own into the upper bracket. So there's going to be a lot that S2G Esports is going to do here. And it's definitely not going to be as easy as the game that they've had for the past.
Yeah, and S2G, right? I mean, there's a lot that's been going right for them today, a couple of mishaps. But I feel like they've been learning and scaling through the times, and hopefully we get to see them at the top of their pinnacle for this series up against Fireflux. Fireflux, another team who we've been seeing dominate on the pro scene time and time again. A team full of a lot of hot prospects who a lot of people have been keeping a close eye on, and will be their biggest challenge yet this entire season. So we'll have to see in the Open Finals exactly how this kind of plays out. It will be another best of 3, but there's a little bit of a twist to this one, right? The twist is, if S2G Esports wins this best of 3, we'll have a bonus best of 3 and jump into another series. But if Fireflux is able to close this one out, it'll conclude the Open Finals, and they will earn that crown as the champion for Season 6.
Which is really interesting, and I know it sometimes confuses some people as to why there is a bonus game, but if you think about it, Fireflux did everything that they were supposed to, and you're talking about S2G Esports, who actually got a second chance. They lost, and they were able to work their way through the lower bracket here. So if somehow S2G is victorious, Fireflux is going to be afforded that exact same opportunity, not to work through the entire lower bracket, but they do get that chance to come back in with that bonus match up there. And that's just the way it should be. And I'm really excited to see what both of these teams can show for us.
Yeah, but there's a lot of insurance on the line. We always say it, a best of 3 is a lot more challenging than a best of 5, considering there's not too much insurance if you lose game number 1, right? That match point staring you dead in the face can make or break a team. And being at the top of this ladder, this is first of all an achievement for both sides to be able to make it to this point, right? For Fireflux, like you mentioned, remaining undefeated, it's definitely, you got to give credit where it's due. But also for the side of S2G Esports, to get knocked down to the lower bracket, but still keeping their momentum and their resolve and being able to push through and shut down all the teams to get to this point. And now I think both of those engines are revved up and ready to go. We're going to see which one has a little bit more horsepower when we jump into our final series, possibly for today, or maybe we get that bonus run. I like to see it go the distance, Private. So I'm a manifester over here.
You brought up a very interesting point about this being a best of 3. In North America, we all know how long it can take some teams to start getting rolling. Maybe like those 3 games, those 5 games, those 7 games for them to actually start feeling the momentum. There is no time for that here. Right from the get-go, that first match could cost you the entire series because you've lost a lot of wiggle room that you need to kind of get into this best of 3. So, I mean, I don't expect S2G Esports to kind of let that go lightly. We've seen here, especially with a lot of these games, how well they can kind of put on that pressure. But we've also seen that sometimes it does take a little bit of time for the compositions that S2G Esports likes to go with. It takes a little bit of time for them to start getting online. Is that something that Fireflux is going to be able to punish? Maybe some early game compositions. Maybe we see the Khalid, the Phobius that would have somehow disappeared from the meta up here, which is just so interesting because of what these guys provide when it comes to team fights. It's completely changed around a lot of, I want to say, the compositions that we see here from these teams.
You know what's funny too? I mean, technically, S2G Esports, they're 4 wins in a row so far, right? They lost game 1 against BGK, then they got the reverse sweep, and then they went up against Papara and got a 2-0 sweep on them. So they are pretty much pretty solid today. 4 wins in a row on top of that. And so I feel like if there was any time for them to be ready, now would definitely be the time. I mean, they've been tested time and time again throughout this entire live stream for today, and it's been very effective. And I feel like we've been seeing them perform better and better each time they step into the scene. This will be the first time that me and you get the pleasure of casting Fireflux this season, especially stepping into Turkey for the Open Finals. It's going to be a treat to see, and I wonder just where their head's at, where their mental space is at jumping into this. When we're looking at S2G Esports, I guess in Fireflux's favor, though, they got to watch, 5 games of S2G to create some strategies and create some plans, where on the other side for S2G, they didn't get to really watch anything on Fireflux. So now it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for them to have a possible counter draft up against them. So I feel like they have that element of surprise to work in Fireflux's favor.
That's an excellent point to bring up too, is that while you have the momentum going in your favor, all the wheels are warmed up and greased and ready to go, you have provided your opponents with a decent amount of matches to possibly be able to kind of draft you out, especially when it comes to some of these assassin metas and some of the different compositions and things that S2G has tried here. We've seen the Hilda for some of that early game pressure. The biggest thing is the assassins that have been out there for S2G. Maybe we're going to start seeing some bans out there. The interesting thing is that the big focus that I've seen on the Angela bans out here, which was really interesting to me. I mean, I know what it provides for some of the assassins. I feel like there's maybe some better picks out there. It allowed Matilda for the first 2 games that we casted here tonight. So it's just some of there's still a lot of room for adjustment when it comes to these picks, when it comes to these bans, when it comes to some of the picks that can go out there. We've talked about how I want to say around certain regions, the fighter meta has been starting to get preferred over the assassin meta. However, I mean, we just saw the how well an assassin can do if you're comfortable on it, if you're great on it, how well it can do into a Suyu pick, who was actually dominating pretty early game, but S2G had a plan in mind. They just let the turtles go. They're like, we're not going to be any part of this early game with how strong he can be. We're just going to go ahead, wait our time, get the farm up, make sure that Ling's getting his farm, and then when we hit that power spark, we're going to go pedal to the metal at our opponents.
Yeah, full rocket to the moon. I mean, the Suyu, it's like they didn't even really worry about it. It was almost as if it was non-existent that entire match, and that just goes with some proper drafting and some game plan, right? I mean, a lot of teams, they tend to go for just ban. This is a problem, ban it out. All these teams are having issues with it. Instead of finding an answer, let's just ban it. But sometimes finding that answer, it just makes your team way more of a lethal weapon, and it's an element of surprise that a lot of people are not prepared for, because basically, effectively, the draft that came out from even Papara in the last game, it was pretty much orchestrated from S2G. They wanted that to come out, right? They kind of played their hand, and they walked right into that trap, and it was a total annihilation. So jumping into this one, they do have to watch out, like you mentioned, this proper planning from Fireflux Esports, being able to watch 5 games in a row. I mean, they could do the same exact play that they did to Papara onto S2G. So I definitely, if I was the side of Fireflux, I'm looking out for that Hayabusa and that Ling. I'm definitely going to be watching out for Kazue on these assassins. We have yet to see him run anything else besides that Ling and the Hayabusa. Maybe a Nolan might have snuck in there, but regardless, it's still the same story, right? He likes to prioritize that assassin playstyle, and he definitely likes to go for more of the assassins that have the invulnerability proc with the ultimates or the high mobility. On top of that, you mentioned the Angela, right? I think it's the reason why we've been seeing it banned out. And honestly, it did slip my mind because I saw it a couple times. I'm like, okay, that was a little strange. But then the more I think about it, I'm starting to think they're running this Angela in the mid lane. I'm thinking that they still get something heavily crowd controlled in that roam position, but they flex the Angela in the mid lane, and it really would profit somebody like Kazue who runs on these assassins. Do you imagine if we watched that game when he was like 14-0 on that Hayabusa, and he had an Angela attached to him? He probably would have had 28 kills. You know, it would have been a one-man show.
Well, it also, I want to say, when you're looking at Angela, with the preference for Cho right now that we've been seeing in the composition, Angela stands as a great counter for that. You get the Way of the Dragon, you isolate that one teammate, but if they have a heart guard that can be popped out at any time, it really can counter that out. You waste a lot of abilities, you don't get a kill, and then your team is looking at a fight without a lot of their spells or abilities with them. So it's so interesting how certain picks from certain regions or a lack thereof of certain picks, without the Phoveus, without the threat of the Khalid too often, really entirely changes the landscape of how these guys like to draft, what picks that they like to favor, what type of compositions that they go with. So it's just so interesting. And I'm wondering, like, I mean, and then, like, do you even pull out a Phoveus or a Khalid out here at this point? Because we said you've seen how well they were able to deal with the Suyu very quickly. They just kind of held back for a few minutes. When you have picks like a Phoveus, Phoveus and Khalid kind of work in the same way too. They have a very strong early game. Phoveus, as soon as he gets that level 4, Khalid right from the get-go has a lot of damage. He can traverse the map very quickly. And they've got that great early game. And maybe that's what kind of is done here in this region, where those picks kind of come into play, but the teams have just learned to be more patient when they see a pick like that come out, to the point where it almost negates the pick entirely.
And then another thing that's a little different than what we've been seeing too is the artillery mages starting to be a lot more prioed, right? Normally in North America, we see like the Zushin or the Vexana slip through the cracks. Maybe here and there we see a little bit of an Eve sneak and rise to the occasion. But here, inside of SPS Season 6 for Turkey, we've been seeing the Eve pretty much prioritize every single game. And we got to see an Eve versus a Farza, which is a matchup I'm all about. I love to see the double artillery dropping bombs in the Land of Dawn. It's super exciting to be able to watch both sides on that. And it's definitely a little bit different. And, you know, as these teams are revving up for the grand finals, it's the team that can go the distance. And sometimes being different is what helps them have that little bit of that advantage on the opposing side. Now, we did, speaking of different, got to see some X Factor picks, specifically one that really rises to the occasion, and also comes to mind the Hilda pickup, right? We got to see it flex into the XP lane, and every single time it's been effective and still sitting at a 100% win rate.
Which baffles my mind too, because like on paper, Hilda's great. She does well in the early game, but every single thing that Hilda does well, I feel like Khalid does better. Because he's able to traverse the map. Maybe he's not as tanky, but he's got a lot of regen. But what he has that Hilda doesn't is team setting potential. With that ultimate, with that sandstorm, he's able to kind of set for the entire team, where Hilda really kind of isolating onto one person that they're going to get that CC on and that absurd amount of damage. And maybe it kind of plays well more into that tower divey type of thing, where you can just jump under tower. You know that Hilda, as soon as she's able to disengage, she's going to go run into a bush, get that health back. So it's just so interesting to kind of see things like that right now. So it's been an interesting compositions here. S2G has shown me some. I'm actually really excited to see what, especially since Fireflex is one of those teams that has kind of already stayed up into the top bracket, so they have something behind them. I'm interested to see how they can counteract some of these picks.
And that's just a little bit of insight from both of us, as both teams are getting ready to jump into the Land of Dawn. We're going to give them a little bit more time, though, so we're going to go on a short break. So this is a time for you guys to regain your composures and also possibly ask some questions before the grand final. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back with you.
Looks like the players are ready. Here we go!
Thank you for hanging in there with us, ladies and gentlemen. But we are back and ready to get the ball rolling for this exciting matchup between Fireflux Esports and S2G.
That's right. Fireflux Esports, undefeated so far. Had an amazing debut into Snapdragon Pro Series Season 6. And now at the top of the ladder into the grand finals. Going up against S2G, who didn't have the same road, the same path as them, right? They had a little bit of a struggle, but they were able to find their composure, find their proper footing, and have clawed through the lower bracket. And here they are in the grand finals as well in this best of 3. And now the question is, who will be able to claim that crown for the open finals before we jump into the challenge season? Keep in mind, Fireflux Esports, if they win this one in this best of 3, it's over until the challenge season. If the side of S2G wins this, then we go to a bonus best of 3.
Yeah, and we've seen stuff like that before too, where the series will go over to one team. I think we had that in one of our first NACTs in North America, where one of the teams came and was able to get an entire series victory, a sweep, but there was that extra bonus game that was played out there, and the opposite team actually won. And it adds a bit of a dynamic. That means that you have to be on your P's and Q's this entire time. You need to make sure that right from the get-go, every single game, right from the beginning, you are dotting your I's, crossing your T's, and making sure you are taking it to Fireflux.
Because this would pretty much be what we would say an upset for Fireflux if they lose here to S2G Esports, considering they've been undefeated so far. But when it comes to a best of 3, anything is possible, right? This is where upsets happen the most, just because there's not that much insurance. Whereas if you lose game 1, you're facing match point with a 2-0 sweep, and that's a very hard thing to get out of. So game 1 is going to be huge for both sides. Definitely going to be an amazing story, nonetheless, for whoever earns that crown for the open finals. It's been a crazy journey today, right? For the most part, we got to see S2G Esports pave their way in the lower bracket. We got to see them go up against BJK, able to win a 2-1 right there, and then move on forward against Papara with a 2-0 sweep. 4 wins in a row. Can they keep that momentum rolling?
Yeah, and that's going to be the difficult thing, is to kind of keep that momentum rolling against a team like this. Do you want to go in with the same plan? Because, I mean, the Fireflux already undefeated, already kind of moved their way through the top lane. You might need to pull out something a little bit riskier for this team to be able to kind of get that control, get that to keep it going in your favor. We talked a little bit about the plans that Fireflux might have because they've been able to watch a lot of these games already. They've been able to see what S2G, I mean, I'm sure they've done their studying. Both these teams probably have done their studying on each other, but there's just something that's different when you're able to watch a team right before you play them. And then, yeah, are there going to be maybe some cold feet? Are you going to be maybe kind of have some time that you need to warm up with your team, the calls and stuff like that? I doubt a team like Fireflux. I mean, we've seen they dominated to the upper bracket here. They've been dominating thus far. A few hurdles, a few obstacles that have been out there for S2G to kind of make their way, but they've cleared them very quickly, very decisively, gotten some great answers, and been able to beat some very tough teams without, I don't dare I say easily. They did very well against those teams. It wasn't really like very close. So, I mean, if any team can kind of take it to Fireflux, it's going to be S2G Esports here. Yeah,
I mean, even with the last series we watched, SCG up against Papara took a game on Fireflux. They got knocked down to the lower bracket with a 2-1 fashion, but then we got to see a 2-0 sweep against them, which means effectively S2G played better against Papara than Fireflux did. So that's definitely something we can kind of keep a close eye on when we do jump into the series between both of them. Now, it's kind of bittersweet coming to a closure for the open finals, right? As you get closer and closer to that ladder, after today, we won't be seeing anybody until January 11th when we jump into the challenge season. So hopefully today, as we do get closer and closer to that ending for the open finals, like I always love to say, let's see it go to the distance, maybe even a bonus round if we can manifest it. But today between both these teams, it's been nail biters. It's been at least 18, 20-minute games, and hopefully we get that same fashion for our final series.
Yeah, guys, unfortunately, it seems like we are not going to be able to get the finals. S2G Esports not able to make it. But guys, for more information, please check out the Snapdragon Pro Series socials. You can see them down there below at ESL Mobile on X in Instagram. You can see ESL_mobile, and then on Facebook at ESL Mobile as well, for all the great energy, all the great teams, all the great plays of your favorite teams.
But at least there is a challenge season. So this is not goodbye. This is a see you next time. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in at the Snapdragon Pro Series, and we look forward to seeing you guys inside of the challenge season for some more exciting games as we get closer and closer to seeing who's just the strongest in Season 6 for SPS.
Take care.